Okay, I'm recording.
All right. Maybe we're in sync. We'll see. All right, we're going to see how in sync we are. So this was supposed to be my very first guest. Billy/Will Haynes. William Danger Haynes, as some of you know, if you've seen him perform. This was literally supposed to be a podcast that we were doing together. We pitched this probably 3 years ago or something, and I really just wanted to do all the production and hide behind the camera, and Will was going to be more of the host, more of the talent, and our buddy Jared Hevron was also going to be kind of doing production and helping us to get some of the guests. And really, I wanted Billy to be the personality, but he went and had other things that he wanted to accomplish, and he went far, far away. So we're going to get a little into that, like kind of where his life went and why he left Columbus, but we have so much other things to cover and how he got there. So let's figure out how you got to that point and kind of how we know each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to see where this thing goes. I love the idea of this podcast. Like you said, we've talked about this for years. I think we even before we knew that podcasts were accessible to the everyday man, we had talked about something like this. But man, our friendship goes back. I mean, I guess it depends on when you define that. I think we met in 7th grade in middle school. I think we had art class together. I know we talked a lot in middle school. We both were musicians and we played in bands. And probably, I mean, it wasn't, I think, until like maybe our junior year that we really started hanging out. And so it goes back quite a bit. I don't want to age ourselves, but we're old. So it's been quite a while. In fact, I think if I remember, we're in the yearbook for like, they have pictures of kind of like the school's best friends, like who everyone knew were the friends. And it was all girls and then us two. So it goes to tell you something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy when you think about how far back you know somebody when you get this old.
Right.
For those of you listening and not watching, gray hairs. So that's how old we are.
Yeah, gray hairs in the beard. Shimmering. Yeah. And so even the idea of this podcast is something that it comes directly from you. We would have incredibly long talks just sitting in the car in the driveway after failed attempts to go pick up chicks because we were not ladies' men at all. But it was always centered around this idea of like, who are you as a person? What is it that you want? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve, and what are you doing to get there? And that's something that you would always drive home to me. So if I was frustrated or if I felt like I was spinning my wheels, it's like, okay, well, what are you really frustrated about? What are you doing to accomplish your goals? And a lot of times you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm frustrated because everything I'm doing is not serving my actual purpose. So that's literally what this is all about, is helping people to kind of recalibrate and look at, oh man, a lot of my history is other people telling me who I'm supposed to be or who I can't be. And the things that they've been pushing me towards have been against who I want to be. And then helping people to really focus on what should I be doing with the short amount of time I have on this planet, and how can I leave a legacy? How can I put a mark on this earth after I'm gone? So how did you get that philosophy so ingrained in you?
Yeah. It's a theme that has come up over and over again in the course of my education, jobs I've had, friends I've had, everything that's kind of come across my plate in life has come back to this theme. I remember struggling with the concept of who am I, and not in a am I this or am I that, but then this is really big picture. Who am I? It hit me hard in college. I was taking a Shakespeare class of all things, and it came out, I think the best way to describe this, in an essay that I wrote about Hamlet. And we won't go into why or what in Hamlet. The question that was just dealing with a quote where Hamlet talked about if you played a certain role, you would eventually become it. And so we were supposed to write an essay about this. And it was a blue book essay, like you're writing it on the spot. You know, it's not something that I took home and really planned out and thought about. But on the spot, it just kind of hit me, this question, this dichotomy of discovering who a person is. You know, is it who we pretend to be? Is it who we are? And I would think of the analogies people like to use. You've probably heard someone say, man, if I could just get away from society, go out in a cabin in the woods, right? You've thought this. Go out into that cabin and have some time alone. Then I could discover who I really am.
Right.
Right. And you may have even thought that before. And you say, okay, maybe who we are, it's these layers, right? And it's I'm a brother and I'm a father and I'm a friend and I'm a coworker and I'm all these things. I'm a neighbor and I play all these roles, and these identities get thrown on top of me, and it kind of hides the true me.
Like an onion.
Right. So that's like an onion. You remember the conversation. But the challenge with that is if you peel the layers back off an onion, you don't find a true onion. There's nothing there. An onion is empty. It's nothing but layers.
Right.
And so you start to think, well, maybe who I am is the sum of those layers. So I am a brother and a father and a son and all those things as a whole.
Yeah.
And really struggling with that idea. So in the paper, I kind of just turned around and said, you can be whoever you want to be. You know, that's what Hamlet was saying. I don't know if Hamlet was actually saying that. And he died in the end anyway, so how smart was he? Spoiler alert, if you've not read Hamlet. Should have said that earlier. Put a message on that part of the talk. You know, really gets you thinking. And so throughout the course of my life, I know I've run into those situations where you feel the pressure of what people expect you to be. You know, so we were in ministry together, and as youth pastors, youth leaders, musicians, right? There's this expectation of the kind of person that we are. And I don't know if you remember back to the old days. You ready for some memories?
Oh, yeah. All
right. I know it's dangerous because this is recorded, but it's also kind of live. So you don't know where I'm going with this.
Oh, no.
Not that it's a big deal, but you worry next time. I remember it was 2000. So we had already graduated from high school, and it was election season. And as we always did after youth group, and we were youth leaders at this point, you know, we're no longer youth group kids. We were 18 years old. And,
we're all grows up.
Yeah. And we went to Applebee's after service on that Wednesday night, and everyone was talking about the election. And if I remember right, you and your brother, Brian, just didn't vote. Like, you're just like, we don't know. We don't care. It doesn't matter. We just didn't vote. And that shocked some people because they all voted for who ran in 2000, Bush, I think.
Right.
They expected that we would have as well. Like, you guys are Christians. You go to a church. You should have voted for George Bush, George W.
Right.
And I remember saying to people, actually, I didn't. I disagree with XYZ, things that he's doing. And I'm 19, I was 19. I'm about a year older than you. So with that comes some wisdom.
Yep.
And really just, kind of whatever my dad told me. So admittingly, but saying these are the issues that I have. And the look of the faces of the people, other youth leaders, and even some of the students who had come with us, just this shock. Our expectation is that you are a hardcore Republican, you're very conservative. That's the expectation that they had. Yeah. And, obviously I'm not trying to get into debate on those things, especially now that we're into this season again. But just that idea that people had this expectation of us. You guys are youth leaders. Of course you this, and this. Right. And so it's interesting because then you find yourself wondering, well, is that who I'm supposed to be? Like, is there something wrong with me that I don't live up to this expectation of this role, this layer? Like, I don't do that. And so there's something, obviously, like, there's something wrong with me, which is very dangerous, right? Yeah. It's not good. But then on the other hand, you find yourself, you don't like those layers. And so you want to figure out what is at the core, so it's again, and to this day, many, many years. I mean, we're talking, well, I aged us. So we were 18, 19 and 2000. So
right.
pushing 40 almost. And in those years, still not knowing, how do you determine who a person really is?
Yeah.
I do come back on, though, that I don't believe who you are is a combination of your titles or your roles. I don't believe it's something that someone else decides. I think ultimately I get to decide who I am. That's a very challenging thing to decide.
Yeah.
And it's way easier said than done. I saw a sculpture once. It was a picture of a sculpture, and it was a statue, but the bottom of the statue was still block, and the statue is chiseling himself.
Right.
And it said, I make who I become. And I thought that's the perfect embodiment of who am I? Who do I want to be?
Right.
Again, very difficult, but still I love that sentiment. And so when we find ourselves, even now, like my wife and I, we moved to Florida about a year and a half ago. I work from home. I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old who's napping as we speak and constantly struggle with this idea that not only am I a father, like they let me take a kid home from the hospital, which should scare many of you. Like, really? And he's still doing okay.
Right.
But that role, like that's what people see me as. I'm a dad and a stay-at-home dad, which has its own stigma to it. I mean, people are not hesitant to call you a lazy freeloader, that you're just milking off of, the fact that someone else in the house works.
Yeah.
People close to me have said that.
Wow.
And it's crazy because then you're again, you get caught in this whole, is that who I am? Do I need to work harder? I find myself doing this all the time. I need to work harder.
Right.
I need to do more. And sometimes that's not the answer.
Well,
you can only do so much.
You get the comments at the playground. Oh, that's cute. He's babysitting.
Yeah. Yeah. And, these things because you are kind of a similar situation some days.
Yeah. Because I freelance.
And as that little girl gets bigger, right, and you're going to the park, and you're going to the store, it's insane. I would take Oliver, my son, so about a year ago, he was still, I could put him in the carrier, a la The Hangover.
Yeah.
The baby Carlos carrier. And I would go to the grocery store, and it was just easy. And he enjoyed it. He liked looking at people. He couldn't really walk. I guess at some point I could have put him in the shopping cart, but it was just very nice. And I would get looks from people, and they would come up and tap me on the shoulder like, "You're such an amazing dad. You're spending time with your son. You're such an amazing dad." And I'd eat it up. I would go to the store just to get those compliments because I knew they were coming. And then the thought, it would always hit me, if my wife, who also would take Oliver to the store and where the carrier did that, nobody thought a second thought about it.
Yeah.
Normal. That's what she's supposed to do.
Right.
Which is just insane.
After working 50 hours that week.
Yeah. I know it takes us kind of off topic, but yeah, that's, where a lot of the thoughts come from of who we become. And I should say, I'm going to take a step aside for people who are listening to this. And, right now, this is still a new podcast. Yeah. So I congratulate you on starting. I think people say that starting a podcast is like what in the 90s when people said we should start a band.
Yeah.
And then only a few people would do it. And you did it, and you're releasing some really great quality stuff. But and right now our friends and family are listening to it, and more people are going to start picking this up. And you might find yourself wondering, well, this guy Will, I don't know him, and he doesn't sound all that interesting. Give me time. And then I'll prove I'm not that interesting.
Just fast forward to the conclusion.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll be epic.
But what's really cool, and I learned this in a writing class I took in college about nonfiction essay writing, so like memoirs and stuff that you'd see like different books and things that, not necessarily autobiographies, but more memoir and reflection. And the idea that I'm a person and your other guests are people with their own stories and their own goals and their failures and their success, like we're all connected through that. Right. And so even though anyone else listening to this may have different goals or a different history to get to where they are, we share in common that we've both done something. We've been through something.
Yeah.
We hope for something. Like that is something we all have in common. And because I'm a human and you're a human and your listeners are human, like that is why this kind of podcast is important. And if nothing else, learn from our mistakes,
right,
or be encouraged by our successes, but see yourself in that same position. You may not want to do the same things that I do. I don't want to do some of the things I want to do. So it's, it works out really well.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just a side note, but I just, I'm thinking about that as we're talking and saying, yeah, this is an important, like, I can't stress how important this kind of storytelling and message is for people to connect at that level. Yeah. And again, to be encouraged or to learn or to just know that we're all in this together. Like your goals are not just your goals. Like we're here.
And
so
I'm starting to
cool
get
thing.
responses from people that I'm asking to be on the podcast that, you don't want me. I'm nobody special. And I'm like, no, that's exactly what this podcast is that we're all equal. Like we're all the same. We're all human beings. Yeah. We're on the same level. We were all born with the same hopes, dreams, and zeal for life. And some of us encountered extremely difficult challenges that we had to overcome. And some of us had a lot of help. Some of us didn't. And that's what I want to know is what starting blocks were you put on when you came into this world? And what were those dreams? Were they crushed immediately or were they never crushed? Because that's what these listeners are going to be connecting to is, oh my gosh, I'm on, chapter 2 of that person's story and they finished successfully. So if I can just get through chapter 3, 4, and 5, then maybe I can find success and achieve my goals.
Exactly. And listen, everyone out there has read, or they can read an interview of former President Barack Obama or Bill Gates or pick your celebrity. Right. Those interviews are out there. And it's not to say those aren't important. Those are awesome. But someone like me, to this day, no one's knocking down the door to hear my story. And maybe, there's a reason for that. But at the same time, if one listener out there hears this and says, hey, I can connect with that guy, shoot me a message, send me some money. I don't know. Like, let's fix the problem with me not being famous.
Right. I'll put your Venmo up.
Yeah. So we are accepting sponsors. So contact
Danger Haynes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is breaking down this barrier that celebrities are somehow superior humans, that just because they have name recognition, they're more important, when that is so unbelievably untrue, when it's every human being that contributes to society that is making the society exist and keeping the wheels turning. Why would we put all these other people on a pedestal and we act like they're these demigods that need to be worshipped in some sense until they say something you disagree with, and then you're like, oh, well, just dribble your basketball and shut up. But the ones that say things that you agree with, you're like, well, they're a celebrity. You have to respect them and hold them up. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Yeah, everybody has equality and a voice.
Yeah, and it's amazing because if you look at celebrities, I mean, I'm completely into the idea when people say like, oh, you get paid to play a game. Mm-hmm. Like you're an athlete, like you're not important. Like, don't tell me that person didn't work hard. Like they may be naturally gifted and have some advantage physically or even just where they were born or how old they were, where they play these sports and stuff, but they worked hard to get there.
Right.
People, I'm not going to name any names, but you're pretty much a nobody, but you release a sex tape and all of a sudden you're super famous.
Right.
Like, I guess you worked hard for that fame too, just in a very different way. Like that sweat was there also.
Well, some of them worked hard. Some of them let other people
lay back and let the other person work hard.
Right. And I want to acknowledge the people that work hard in their vocational classes and they go to a factory, they work extremely hard and they get promoted to a line supervisor and then they're a foreman, and then the next thing they're running a shop and they provide for their families and they retire at the same place they've worked their entire life. Like that's also success, and their voice is equally as important as a celebrity athlete. Like your life is no less valuable just because your platform isn't as high and as viewed as somebody else.
Absolutely. I wrote a personal memoir in that writing class I've already mentioned, and it was called The Value of a Man. And while I did, I've won no awards with this piece, very few people have read it, but it was on that exact same topic. It's interesting. because I don't think I ever shared it with you. But the idea goes back to, when I was 19, my sister's husband died in an accident at work. And through the years, there was this big, debate and arguments and basically like this lawsuit coming up and saying, hey, this was negligence at the company and all this kind of stuff. And they ended up settling out of court. And they placed the value on his life at like $900,000 or something like that. It was not $1 million. And it took years. So by the time I'm in college taking that class, and at that point I was, how old was it, 24, 25? I think I was about 25 years old. Yeah, I was 25. I was 25 years old when that settlement came. So we're talking 6 years of back and forth dealing with this issue. And that's when I was taking this class, and I really struggled with this idea. They have an algorithm, and they put in how old was he, and how much did he make, and how much would he make over the course of his life, and with pay increases and this kind of stuff. And they came up with a number and said, this is the value of this person's life. And it really hits you hard.
Yeah. Because
to us, like, obviously, we would have raised twice that amount to not have the accident happen.
Right.
So that value just seems like it's almost insulting. I mean, I get it. You have to come up with something. Like there is no place. You can't put a monetary value on a person. You can't put a monetary value on a young person who might have a family someday. You can't. You just can't.
Right.
So I understand like the insurance companies and kind of what they have to go through. But the bottom line in that paper, this is 15 pages, 20 pages, like just this really like in-depth kind of looking at people that we've lost and how these things are, how they come about and the importance people play in your life and things like that. And at the end, I started wondering, like, what would make anyone else more valuable? Because more people like them, like you're a celebrity,
right? Because
you have a better job. My brother-in-law was working in a factory. He had taken a break from college, but he was going back. So who knows? Maybe he would have stayed at the factory forever and would have made that amount of money. Even though it's crazy because that factory eventually was bought out by a different steel company who paid a lot better. So even my dad worked at the same place and his salary like increased twice as twofold. But they didn't know that. Like you start thinking of those things, you're like, oh, that's crazy. And you start wondering, well, what's the difference between really, my brother-in-law and my neighbor down the street that I've never talked to, or that damn towel head over in the Middle East, the guy we hate. What makes any life more or less valuable than any other? And it's a hard one to wrestle with.
Right.
Again, it saddens me. We just lost a great Kobe Bryant, died in that helicopter crash, and the memorials and all the things have been fantastic. And that's all great. The part that hit me was there was half a dozen other people on that chopper who also died. And it's not to take away from, I didn't know who any of those people were. So if they had come on the news and said, Joe Schmo died, I'd be like, oh, that sucks for Joe Schmo's family, but I can't take that personally.
Right.
Versus a celebrity or, a musician, someone that you connect with. But at the same time, like we make these big deals. People post, oh, Stan Lee died. Like, what a horrible day. Like this big thing. And I'm not taking away from that. Like I love Stan Lee. I'm a Marvel fan through and through. But what's the difference between him and an old guy down the street that I've never talked to?
Right.
I don't know either of them. One of them happened to write some comic books that I love. I don't know. Like it really hits you pretty hard. Like when you really think about it.
The thing that hit me about the Kobe Bryant scenario specifically is Kobe literally achieved his goals, his wildest hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
He not only accomplished them, he exceeded them, but his daughter never got the chance. So she had the skill, she had the support. There was nothing standing in her way. The sky was the limit for her to reach her goals and exceed even her dad's potential as an athlete. And all of that was cut short. So to me, that was the real tragedy. Kobe, of course it's a tragedy and it's sad, but I feel like we should be celebrating his life because he accomplished everything. He not only that, he set up his entire family for success. Like he did his job as a dad. Like that's a celebration. His daughter that's a tragedy. And that's what I mourn, is the loss of opportunity.
That's a really good way to put it. And obviously, you said it, but I like to throw on there as well. It doesn't take away from the tragedy. So anyone who's out there like getting upset, like, wait a second, he was an icon. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We can celebrate and be sad. Definitely younger than we expect, all those kind of things. It's it's insane though, because that kind of thing happens. The tragedy aspect of that happens every day.
Yeah.
Right. Young lives are taken. People who maybe they're not young, but they've not taken that step towards a goal. They've never defined a goal, and they're taken in the same thing. Like they never had a chance to pursue that goal. Yeah, that's a tragedy every day.
Right.
I mean, every cemetery you drive by is full of that, right?
Yeah.
Songs that were never written, marathons that were never ran. I don't know, what do normal people have goals for? Kids,
right.
Jobs, I don't know, stuff.
All the risks that were never taken. Yeah.
Yeah. To get off that depressing topic, this makes me think of, I was very fortunate. I had a job for a travel company called Rustic Pathways, and they sent me to Costa Rica, and I helped lead summer programs for high school students. And I was really out of place. I mean, the people that came down, these were all cool people. Like when you talk to them, like, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, I travel the world and I climb mountains, and I just happen to be on this side of the world, and I took this job. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, what do you do? Like, oh, I raise sustainable farms in my community, and I live in a tent, and I poop outside. And you're like, man, that's incredible. Like, what are you? I'm like, oh, I'm a teacher, and I have nothing to do in the summer, so here I am. Like, yeah. But I remember like going into this and not really knowing what to expect. I'd worked camps and stuff before, and this was similar but very different. So kids would come for a week, but these were kids who really, most of them went to really good high schools, boarding schools, private schools, and things like that. We did have some kids that were remarkable that were from lower income families, like they raised the money on their own, or they begged, borrowed, and hopefully not stole, but you never know,
right.
To be able to raise the funds to do these trips. It's community service based. And I remember going into this thinking, when I was young, like we weren't poor. Like I had a house, I ate, I had clothes, I won't say that I didn't live in the back of a van or anything. And people go through that every day. But I certainly didn't have the money when I was a kid. I don't think this would have been possible for me unless I would have saved for years. And we're talking thousands of dollars. I remember in ninth grade, the band, I was in jazz band, and we did a trip to Washington, D.C., and it was $250. And I had to beg both sets of grandparents, my parents. I committed to entire summers of mowing grass for people to raise $250.
Yeah.
So the idea, saying these kids are spending $5,000, $6,000 for these trips, and they would combine weeks. They do multiple trips. But anyway, first I realized that I have a bias against people with money, and it's a jealousy thing. Like these schools, they have iPads for every student. And this was, not this year, we're talking 10 years ago. They had all these opportunities. I'm like, I didn't have that. Like our school, let's put it this way. We graduated from a high school in 2000 that had its 10-year reunion in 2011. That should tell you something about the educational value of where we went to school. Now, I know the joke is, I don't know what the joke is. I'm not blaming the people in charge. I just thought it was really funny.
It was a Baker's 10-year reunion.
Yeah, 11 years, 10-year reunion. Seeing that they were able to do this kind of program is something I never could have done. And I was really lucky that I even got to work for the company.
Yeah.
In that summer, I was making $100 a week. Like I had no cash. My debit card was eaten by a foreign machine. Like I just existed in this program, and that was it. And these kids come in, they've got spending money, they're buying activities, they're buying stuff for their friends. But what I learned through the course of the summer, to get back on track here, is that these kids have a whole different set of problems than I had. And it's not to say they didn't have problems, and it's not to say they didn't have goals, because some of them did have goals. It's insane to think about what you deal with. You and I, we had problems growing up. Like, yeah, maybe our parents didn't have a lot of money, so if we wanted to do that trip, we had to work hard, save money over the summer, work 2 jobs during the school year. We didn't get to play sports. I mean, I was lucky. I got to play sports. I would work on Sundays. I didn't do track my senior year because I was working, and I needed to get some money saved up and things like that. But we had those kinds of issues. We didn't have the same issues that some of these kids had, where they went to boarding school, they came home for the summer, and then they were sent off to a summer program, and they saw their parents no more than 20 days a year. They were raised by teachers and nannies and things like that. And I remember there was this kid. He was going into his senior year of high school, super alpha male. He was a good kid, but just very like headstrong, confident, almost aggressive in how he was direct about what he wanted. He was clearly like meant for the boardroom. And he went to, I forget the name of it, a very fancy boarding school. Like his parents clearly had money. They sent him to this boarding school, best education in the country kind of thing. During the summer, they're sending him to community service programs abroad. So he's building up his college application. He's doing all this stuff. And you'd think this kid is really happy. But in the course of the program, the guys, this program particularly, like it was always unbalanced. We'd have 25 girls and 6 boys. And so for me, it was nice because I could connect with the boys a lot easier than the girl guides could connect with the girls. There's just the sheer numbers of it.
Yeah.
And I might be the only guy on the program. Now, we had two male program leaders and then 4 girl program leaders and then, 30 girls that week. And so we're sitting upstairs and there's a patio, a balcony overlooking, you've got the jungle, rainforest starscape. It's gorgeous. And the guys are just sitting around talking. And at one point we asked this kid, I said, hey man, like, so what do you want to do? Like, you're going to graduate in a year. Like, what do you want to do? He said, well, I'm going to graduate from such a school, and then I'm going to go to this college, and I'm going to get my MBA doing this, and I'm going to blah, 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 blah. We said, that sounds great. What is it that you want to do? Because that sounded like something he'd been handed.
Yeah.
Like that was a script that his dad gave him, that the principal gave, someone gave him. And he basically started blubbering. Like he wasn't crying, but he was, it was there. He was fighting back the tears as hard as he could. And he looked at us and he said, no one's ever asked me what I want. They've only told me what I should do. And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
And to this day, like when I think about that and I go, yeah, this is an entirely different problem than what we had. Our parents told us, go be a welder, go be an electrician, go whatever, get a job, make money, raise a family, like do your thing.
Right.
And I think both our family is very supportive in that regard. But that was basically the bar that they had set. Get a good paying job.
Just have a backup plan. That's all we ask. Yeah.
If you make $35,000 a year, you'll be fine. Like you'll be better than we were.
Yeah.
And then here's this kid who's basically being handed a plan to be a millionaire, to be president, to be whatever. Like he's on that track. It's been handed to him. And even though it's funny, he never actually answered what he wanted to do. Because the reality is I don't think he ever thought about it. I don't know if he ever felt he had that choice. He could have wanted to dance at Juilliard. I don't know. Like,
right.
And he's being put on this like very strict like business politician plan. And it just breaks your heart. So I think that's one of the crazy things, again, when we're connecting with each other, someone listening to this might say, well, I have a completely different background than these guys. Like I was raised with all these advantages. Yeah, but you still had problems. Guarantee it. Right. And the people who have similar problems to us, and you think, well, my life went a different direction. All right, cool. But we came from the same place. Again, it's just crazy when you think, and for me, that was that summer, the first summer I worked for Rustic Pathways, and I ended up getting hired full time. I worked for them for 3 years and did this every summer and really embraced these like quote unquote rich kids because I knew they were coming in with issues and I felt confident because I knew how to deal with that kind of stuff in terms of like, I was on my own, I was the youngest of my sisters. You're youngest, you remember, and they always make the joke, the first kid, you're very protective and they have all the rules. And then the middle kid, like they break all the rules or like the demon child. And then the third kid, you're just like, I don't care anymore. Right. And that was certainly what it was kind of like in our house.
Yeah.
I mean, my oldest sister helped raise me. My parents were, they worked different schedules and things. I can't say anything too bad about that kind of stuff, but I kind of just did what I wanted. And so the idea of someone telling me, well, you have to do this, this, and this, like I didn't really have that issue. I mean, my dad sometimes didn't like the ideas that I had because he didn't see that being a good job.
Right.
But I was never told you can't do that. I was definitely never told you have to do this. Whereas some of these other kids are being told that. And I know the same for you. Like your parents are just excited if you got a job at all.
Right.
So,
right.
So it's crazy. It absolutely blows your mind when you think that way. Right here we're on this discussion about who are you, what are your goals, and what are you doing to get them, and taking for granted these other people out there who maybe have never had that question asked to them.
Right.
They were given goals, they were given steps to get there, and they might even convince themselves that's what they want. Right. Maybe it is. I mean, maybe it works out for them and they're happy. But I'm willing to bet that the folks who never have a chance to look inward and say, what is it that I want? They're missing something, even if they don't know what it is. So.
Well, and maybe they have the expectations too that if they've been told this is what is going to happen, They just expect that to happen. And
Yeah.
if you don't really have something inside that's worth fighting for, how are you going to adjust if it's not handed to you? So if you don't actually have goals, then you're not going to fight for it, and you're not going to work around and troubleshoot to accomplish those goals. Because no matter where you started from, at what starting block you were at, and what turns, where you were at on those turns, we all have the same finish line. We all die one day, and we all leave, we all get a medal. That's our legacy. So everybody's going to see what our legacy is after we're done. So whether you were rich, poor, had a mansion, you were homeless, your legacy is going to live on after you for a generation or 5 or 100. What is that legacy? You know, what goals did you accomplish? Or did you fail at everything? Or did you not even try anything? Like, that's what we need to figure out. And all I can do is, and you were kind of saying, what's the value of a person? And I think we should be thinking about that for ourselves. Is every single day, am I adding value? Am I adding value, number one, to my life? And am I adding value to the people around me? Or am I subtracting value? Do I feel like today took value away from me? Did I take value away from other people? When I started working in freelance community, it's very big on not necessarily are you qualified, but do people want to be around you for a 12-hour day or a 16-hour day? If you're a buzzkill, you're not going to get called on the next job. But if you're a joy to be around, they'll help you with your skills and make sure that you can handle what's needed on set if they like being around you. So you're literally adding value to that set or that gig, whatever it is, because they just you're bringing life, you're bringing energy. So that's what we should be doing every day, is be the person that other people want to be around, add value to your life and to their life. On that note, you know, we kind of know where you've come from and where you're at now as a stay-at-home dad who is, I need to also mention that you do work. You have quite a few irons in the fire. You are bringing income to your family. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now and kind of what your goals are right now for the current situation and maybe the near future.
Yeah. So I guess to understand where things are now, we have to go back in time just a little bit. I was, we lived in Ohio. I met my wife in Columbus, Ohio, and I was working full time. I was a recruiter. I was a regional recruiter for a test prep company. So I was recruiting for 11 different offices. It was busy, but I liked it. It was great. And they eventually let me work remotely. I could work from home, which came into play when our son was born because Jen, my wife, had to go back into her residency program. So she took off some, maternity leave, but she had to go back and finish residency. And that meant, 12-hour shifts, longer than that, 24-hour shifts, overnights, the whole thing. So we had a couple of months when I was able to work from home and take care of Oliver. I mean, he was young. He was easy to take care of. When they're that little, they just sleep all day. They wake up, you give them a bottle, they go back to sleep. So it wasn't interfering with work. But my boss would give me permission to kind of he said, just get your job done. Just get your job done. And that meant I would, I'd get up and I'd work and I would, get him and do things and go back to work. So I might work 12 hours. Well, I might clock in at 7, clock out at 7, but I worked 8 hours, 9 hours that day because I would take breaks.
Yep.
It worked out well. And when it came time, residency's over and we found this awesome job in Florida for Jen. And I thought, hey, I work remotely. I can go anywhere I want to. I'd give my boss notice a year before. Hey, when she finishes residency, we're going to be looking for a job. And, we may end up in another part of the country. And even then we knew Florida was on the radar because we have some family down here and things like that. So about that time, the company went through a restructure. They had a new CEO come in, new managers all over everything. And I ended up with a manager who said, everyone has to come into the office. We have no more remote employees. Now, this is when I was on paternity leave. I had got 2 weeks off for paternity. I had saved them until Jen went back to residency so I could adjust to being by myself with this new life. And it was during that I attended a meeting and I called her and I said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but I've had 2 managers before you and they both knew I was moving. Like, we're already in the process of packing. And she said, well, that's not going to work. And at the same time, I was, you did HR studies, so you know the seriousness of this. I was asking for FMLA leave. Mm-hmm. It was a little overwhelming, like full-time taking care of a baby by myself. I've gotten used to it, but at the time, I kind of panicked, and with Jen's schedule and some of those overnights and stuff, and we're breastfeeding, so it was hard on both of us. So I said, I need to take some more time off, and this is the way to do it. And they essentially said, well, she submitted my resignation for me to HR. Jeez. Which I'm pretty sure is not allowed.
Yeah.
So with all this being said, I guess the short of it is it was a lot of fighting and a lot of back and forth. And luckily I knew, I did my master's, same as you, like with a study or focus in HR management.
Yep.
And so what I pointed out to them, like, you can't do that. Like, I'm federally entitled up to 12 weeks. You use all my vacation and stuff. I don't care about that. Like, absolutely. Take all my personal days, use my vacation, but I need some extra time.
Right.
To help with this kid,
even if it's
and they
unpaid,
were like, well,
I want it.
And she told me, like, well, you can't unless your kid has special needs. I said, no, I can. That's the law.
Yeah.
In fact, blocking FMLA is against the law. And it wasn't until I brought this up that they came and they changed their game and said, well, we had laid off a bunch of people. We're just going to add you to the layoff list. You're going to get severance. You're going to all this stuff. I said, fine, that's fine. Which was kind of nice because then I got paid and I got to stay home without any work. I had to work for another 2 weeks. To get where we are now, we moved to Florida. I basically lost my job. We moved in with family for a few weeks till we figured out what we were going to do. We got a rental. We contracted for a house to be built. My wife's working, and I was just taking care of the kid. Especially when they're young. Like, once he started to crawl and roll, I couldn't really do work at the same time as he was awake, and he took a couple naps a day, but it wasn't enough to work. So it was tough, and that's when I got a lot of those comments about, you're just a freeloader, you're just lazy. When are you going to provide for your family? Be a man, that kind of stuff. And, I've heard people say, like, being a stay-at-home parent is one of the hardest things you do. I'm not going to say that's entirely true. Because we've both sweated at work and had some hard jobs that are more challenging.
Yeah.
Being at home with the kids, fun most of the time. So I consider myself very lucky. But those comments, it was really tough. Right. And so, I was fortunate. I'd started a tourism company in Columbus some years ago, and I had a really good friend kind of come on board and help run tours in Ohio while I was gone. And, that was going, that was really just a season, 1 month of the year was busy enough that help was really appreciated. And she did an awesome job. Multiple years in a row now, we've been doing that together. And as Oliver's gotten older, I started getting my hands on some new things. So right now, I'm very fortunate. My old job actually called me and said, since you stopped recruiting, no one knows what to do. Will you come back on part-time? And I said yes, and I negotiated a really good wage for that. Because nice. I did have another office offered to hire me on for half of what I was making to do the same job. And I straight up told them, that's an insult. It's I know that's not your intention, but there's no way I'm going to let this happen on principle, where you lay me off and then hire me back at half the pay.
Right.
But the other office, really good wage, only a few hours a week. And I started finding some side gigs to do. And so right now I'm actually working, I'm a content writer. I do a lot of content marketing and consulting and stuff for small businesses, which keeps me pretty busy. It's really insane. Even now, those people who think that I'm lazy, I invite you to come visit me for a day.
Right.
Let me pick the day, because some days I am pretty laid back. We take our breaks. Today's a good example. Jen had to get up. She was at work. She had to leave she got up at 5:30 this morning. At 6, I was up and on my computer, and I did 4 pieces this morning before Oliver woke up. Right now, if I wasn't doing this podcast during his 2.5 hour nap, I'd be writing, or I would be, cleaning the house, or, doing other home kind of things you do. And then when Jen comes home, I'll make dinner and we'll play, and then we'll start to go to bed, and I'll finish work for the day.
Yeah.
So and I'm not bragging and I'm not complaining. That's just the nature of when you step up and say, hey, I'm going to make some money and I'm going to do something important to me and I'm going to take care of my family. it's hard for people to hear that, because if it was a mom doing this, if I was one of the, I'm going to poke fun at some people I know, if I was a stay-at-home mom who was a realtor, and because that seems to be like the perfect stay-at-home mom job,
right?
Which you can make some really good money. So it's not, I have friends here in Florida that are realtors that do really well for themselves.
Oh yeah.
And it can be very time consuming. So I'm not downplaying that. But if I was a mom and I had, I was selling essential oils or elderberry syrup or whatever trend or some multi-level marketing thing, or is doing something legit, whatever it was,
yeah,
no one would think anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what moms do. You take care of your kids and you also have a job. Cool. Go for it.
Right.
But as a dad, like it's people, they still think of that as really weird.
Yeah.
Or they think I'm complaining when I say, like, well, dad should just do one thing. No. I'm very happy with that role that I have, because I mean, again, I'm very lucky because I get to spend all the time with my son. And Jen also has a really great schedule. So I can't, she's not working every single day. She's off 3 days a week, full days, and 2 half days, unless it's a busy season. Right now it's a busy season. So she's working 6 days, which is hard on all of us, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
The challenge I run into, 2-part. So one is I mentioned earlier, like that feeling of not doing enough, because when you compare wages, and I'm not, I don't want to brag, I'm doing pretty well as a freelance writer. Like I'm not far off of salaries I've made when I was a teacher, even when I worked for Rustic for the first year. Like I'm hitting those numbers with the limited time that I have because of the kids. So I'm doing pretty well on that front.
Yeah. And it's important you're not bragging, because people, like listeners, need to hear that, because they need to know that working from home is a legitimate option.
There's a lot of like crappy jobs out there that they try to get you to do from home. But there are some legit things, and I've contracted with a few places to write. That's been fantastic. I'm recruiting for some places, and we'll get into later, but I still have the interest to start some new things here in my new town. So I have some goals we'll get to when that part comes up. So the challenge that I face, so one is that, I need to work more, and I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like my salary versus Jen's like way off. Not to make it sound like we're rich, because our combined student loans is more than our house.
Yeah.
Our house is more than our house. Like it's, we're certainly, we're doing okay. Again, I'm not complaining, not bragging, but we're not the 6-figure family that you might, people might think when they hear like, oh, you're married to a doctor.
Right.
Yeah, it costs a lot to become a doctor, and hopefully someday that'll, we'll have that doctor money, but it's not now.
Right.
So you have that trend, because I also want to support her. This week she's working 6 days, which is rough, because those are long days. It's we still have people with flu issues. It's a lot of parents who don't understand what's going on, or parents who think that they get to call the shots, when it's like, no, I'm a doctor. I know these things. I did my research. No, you read Google for 20 minutes. I did 11 years of school and residency to get here. Trust me. Mm-hmm. So that's very difficult for her. She's an excellent doctor. She's been complimented on the way she explains things to people, like how she kind of, I don't want to say dumbs down, but kind of makes accessible the information.
Right.
So parents just don't walk away going, well, the doctor told me to do this, but they understand, oh, this is why I didn't get antibiotics for the cold, because they don't work. That kind of thing. But it's stressful. She's on her feet. She's seeing a ton of patients. So when she comes home, like, I want to make it so she doesn't have to come home and clean the house or come home and cook dinner and that kind of stuff. But there's only so many hours a day for me as well. So that challenge, I also am not a very good cook. So it's almost punishment for her if I'm like, I'm going to make a big meal, and then smoke alarms going off and everything doesn't, it tastes like garlic because I don't know any better.
Right.
That kind of stuff. The other challenge that I face currently is really the issue. Again, it comes back to, well, who am I? Am I happy calling myself a dad? Like, is that enough? And I feel this pressure that it's not. I feel like it should be. Even if I didn't do other work. Like if I was just like, listen, I'm a dad.
Right.
And while my kid's at home until he goes off to daycare, school, and so forth, like I'm a dad foremost. That's it. That should be enough. Like that's a pretty full-time job. And any parent out there should agree, right? Like, hey, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I would take personally things like if he, my son was speech delayed. He's doing well now. We've got him in therapy that has done wonders. But only, 3-4 months ago, he barely said a word. We know that he could, he didn't. And I took that personally because I'm with him all the time. And I try to read to him. I try to work with him. We play games and stuff. There are days when we just go to the park and I maybe don't do educational stuff as much. hey, let's just go play.
Well,
I don't have it in me today.
You got an English degree.
Yeah. And so then, when we had an evaluation, they said he's borderline, well, not borderline, they said he was speech delayed and that, that could indicate other problems. And I know my wife did as well, but you take it very personally. Like, I'm the one here doing this. Like, I'm failing as a dad. And they start thinking, well, that's maybe because you don't define yourself as a dad. Like, that's not, you think you have to be something else too. And so you get like this really, you down on yourself. Like, it's really easy to do that. And now that he is, he's well past where he's supposed to be and the number of words that he can say, I'm so proud. He's counting. He knows all of his letters. He always skips the number 4. I don't know why, but he does. We count our toes every day. And 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Nice.
Not so much, buddy, but we're getting there. And, but in those moments, and even now, like I every day I question, am I doing enough? Are we playing too many non-educational things? Like, should I, it's so tough. But then finding out, like, I feel guilty because I have this yearning to do something more than just be a dad. And I hate to say it, like, just being a dad is a really big thing. Just being like I'm not really the homemaker because Jen does a ton of stuff around the house. Like, she stays busy even when she's working a lot. So I don't want to downplay that. But just being a dad is enough. But I have this feeling I want to do something more. I want to do something else. And I feel guilty. I feel guilty all the time. Yeah. Because shouldn't I just be happy with what I'm doing? And it's like, but I have this yearning. Like, there's something inside of me that says, like, this is great. I love this. I appreciate this. But I need something else too.
Yeah.
Well,
and that goes back to the layers that you were talking about, that we are the sum of all of our influences and our passions and our hopes and our dreams. And especially you are a very creative person, not only with music, songwriting, but also videography and photography. So for you to only be a full-time dad and not pursue any type of creative outlet, you're literally just letting layers of yourself die and not be expressed. So even though just being a dad is full-time, so it's definitely enough as far as time consumption, it's not enough to fulfill the whole of who you are. And that's what I was going through, because I took a full-time salary job for 2 years because it was very convenient for us going through in vitro. We knew we were going to have a lot of doctor's visits, and just having the ability to take the time off of and go do those visits and work extra hours at the office. It was just a convenient time for that 9 to 5 type thing. But working a 9 to 5 job that was all stress, it really just murdered me as my identity, and it just brought me down. It was like the most depression I've ever had, and I didn't know how to deal with it, because I've never dealt with depression like that before, other than when my dad passed. And I'm, still dealing with that, of course. So there's that cloud of depression from dad passing that's always there. And now you have this identity killing career that gives you no expression of your talents and skills and what you went to school for and all that. That's just, pulling the cloud of depression into a fog that is covering your lens and you can't see anything. So I was just like spiraling. I was like, I need to change everything. Like, if my couch wasn't big enough, I would rearrange the living room just so things were different. It's one of those, like, I need everything to change. So that was part of me quitting my job and going back to freelance, because at least everything is different, having a different gig and different clients, and having everything is new. So it brings new life. And now I'm doing creative projects, filming a documentary. So I'm actually telling somebody's story in depth and meeting new people. And then that's also what this podcast is all about, is I needed a creative outlet. Wanted to do a podcast for a long time, but I don't feel like I'm an expert at anything. I don't have anything, to really like tell people, but everybody has a story. So helping other people to tell their story is just a way for me to help have a creative space to just get these stories out. So yeah, I would say like, don't neglect who you are as a whole, especially your creative outlet, because yes, you're dad, and yes, you're Jen's husband, but you're also Will, and you're also Billy, and you're also Danger Haynes. You're all of these things, like we're still the person we were in junior high. We're still the person we were in high school. All these bits and pieces of us are still in us. We've refined them, in most senses a lot, but in some senses not so much. They're all in there. They're in our brain, they're in our hearts, they're in our thoughts and our memories. A lot of those things we don't want to repeat, but we want to take, sometimes the idea was good, the execution was bad. So some of those hopes and dreams might still be the same. You just want to execute them differently. So where is that taking you now? Are some of those dreams and hopes the same as what they were way back when, or have they changed completely?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I feel like most of my existence has kind of been all speed ahead at one thing.
Yeah.
And I do that until I either burn out or I burn it to the ground. Like
right.
Either, it's run its course or it runs its course with me. And then I pivot and go somewhere else. And so now I'm kind of in that stage of being dad. And it's interesting because, you mentioned like having these creative outlets and things, and absolutely, like, don't get me wrong, my son, I sing to him, play guitar and ukulele and stuff for him all the time. I think he hates it now, but he will scream at me when I do it. But we do those things. We play some of those games and have some creative outlets and things. It is very different with a kid. Now he's talking and interacting. So it's very different than it was a year ago when it really felt one-sided. And as he gets older, it's going to be even better. So it does help in that regard. But I've looked at, I'm a part of a couple different groups on Facebook and even Reddit and things like that deal with either stay-at-home dads or just dads. It's just another place where people kind of, whether they're venting or sharing encouragement or stories of their success, or even just asking questions that dads are supposed to know, like what's the best wrench to use to deal with this pipe, because someone else out there knows that. So it's really a neat group. But the thing I'm seeing over and over again with the stay-at-home dads, and I should take a second to shout out, you were mentioning your job and how it was killing you. The shout out to all the parents who work and still come home and be parents.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm fortunate. I don't have to do it. There are some days I do some notary work where I might go in for a whole day to an office and just, do some loan closings and things. And, man, I just think those days I'm like, man, having a job, like a full on 9 to 5, like screw that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not there with the kid. And so I know it's hard on Jen. I know it's hard on other parents that do it. And so shout out to that, like to be able to come home and still have the energy to like be parent. Yeah. That I would say is harder emotionally than being a stay-at-home parent. But where the stay-at-home parent struggles that you don't necessarily get at work is I can literally go several days without talking to another adult outside of my wife, or maybe just small talk with neighbors.
Yeah.
I will put Oliver in the stroller and I will walk around the neighborhood and I will stop and talk to anyone who's outside. And there's some pretty cool people in my neighborhood, so they appreciate that. But it's different, So I'm guilty of. I have a few friends that I use, Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app, or phone calls and stuff like that. I'll call family members once in a while that I don't talk to very often. It's like, Grandma, what are you doing? And just to kind of interact. And I, even going to work, you may hate your coworkers, but at least you have someone to hate, to talk to.
Right.
Now, given, I've had some pretty crappy coworkers that I'd be okay if I never had to see them. And I'm not complaining because I enjoy the trade-off, but those moments do get tough. And so when you think like, your goals, like what have they become? I mean, realistic right now, still 2 years in, trying to figure out how can I be a decent parent, which is just crazy to say because a lot of other people have done this.
Yeah.
Younger people, older people, they do it all the time. There's some, kids are being raised all over the world. And I don't know if maybe I just overthink it. That's where Jen and I are a good fit. Like we're just into it. Like what's the evidence on this? Like what's the best method for that? We've taken a parenting class. We're doing the speech. And people tell like, oh, he doesn't need speech therapy. He's just taking his time. That might be true, but we're, what's the definition of helicopter parents?
Right.
It's us.
Yeah.
At least for now. And so that's kind of the overarching goal. But the one thing, is consistent is I've always wanted to, I like to create stuff for myself. And more than just like writing a song or writing a story, which I will admit, like I have much less time to work on those kinds of projects, which is sad. But the consistent theme in the stay-at-home parent group is that it takes a couple of years before you can kind of get back to that time. At 2 years old, Oliver still will try to kill himself multiple times a day.
Sure.
So I can't go play. Daddy's going to work for a little bit. And we can't do that because he will find something somehow to climb on it and jump off or fall off. We're going to put him in daycare a couple days a week coming up to get some social activity. In Florida, they have VBK, which is kind of like a preschool that's state funded for half a day.
Oh, cool.
But that's what most of these stay-at-home parents groups are saying is it takes a couple of years, one, that you get to have some of that time back to yourself where you can send a kid off to play and not worry about them dying. And I'm not talking about sending them off to watch TV. I know that's the biggest babysitter, and I'm going to sound like a real jerk when I say this, but like, nope. I'm not saying my kid never gets to watch some TV. I have to put a phone in his hand to clip his nails or he'll fight me and hurt himself.
Right.
And in emergencies. But I'm not talking about that. I'm saying like he can actually go play, not hurt himself, where he's off at school. I can focus on anything. Where same for Jen. Like, and we actually like to achieve our goals. It's funny. My wife and I, we've recently had this conversation. We kind of beginning of the year, we don't believe in resolutions because resolutions are just things you fail. Like they're meant that way. We talked about setting actual goals to get onto the point of this whole podcast. Like, what does that look like? It's creating mini goals. And that's the thing I've really stressed in my own life, and I'm starting to stress with her as well. Because we talked about what do we want, and we both want time to do something that's not being a parent and it's not our job.
Cool. Whatever
that looks like.
Yeah.
And I know Jen struggles. She's been in medical training and school and grad school and all this stuff for it's been like 11 years to get here. So she hasn't had any time to herself in over a decade.
Right.
She doesn't even know what to do with it. She said, like, she told me, it's like, I want a hobby, but I don't even know what I want to do, which is a very tough position to be in.
Yeah.
So we just started exploring. Do you want to learn to knit? Do you want to decorate cakes? Do you want to write a book? What is it you want to do? I don't know.
Right.
But we did decide to set aside time. Like there is a time when you're not at work. We call them Wednesdays are sacred. She will not pick up shifts on Wednesdays unless they absolutely have to, like, force her because, whatever's going on. And the idea is that Wednesday afternoon to Wednesday night, that is not time to do work for her because Thursday's her really long day. So that's a time, and she has worked really hard. And one of the reasons it's so hard right now is she's balancing off the year. She's doing all the extra work now. So the second half of the year, she doesn't have to work as much. And we've already planned that time. We are putting, she would normally work on a Saturday. She's going to stay home. She's going to go to the office in our house and work during that time.
Okay.
And she's going to become a lactation consultant. She's already helping moms with breastfeeding because we had some struggles. I say we had nothing to do with it, but we had some struggles up front with breastfeeding Oliver, and we went to a consultant, and Jen learned a lot and is really good at helping. She's not certified, but she knows because she's been through the ringer. I think she went through some of the worst of it. So she's going to get that certification. There's some other medical things that she's looking into building up on. But even outside of that, like just time to read a book or learn an instrument or whatever it is that she wants to do, like that time's going to be set aside. And in turn, I will get that time as well,
right?
To work on whatever it is that I want to do, which is really neat. It's crazy to think as parents, you need to schedule time and you feel guilty. Like this is time that I'm home. I could be with my family, but I'm going to say, no, I'm going to be away from my family.
Yep.
But you have to have that. And you need a partner who will support that. And that's something Jen has always been really good. I mean, I have played a few shows, played some music a few places, and it means maybe I have to hire a babysitter or something to do that, and it costs some money, and maybe I don't make as much. But Jen's supporting that. Go do it. Go play. You need to go out and play. You need an excuse to keep playing your guitar, and having a gig once in a while is the way to do it.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. But let me tell you the biggest thing we're doing right now. I'm going to make this official announcement.
Cool.
All right.
You hear it first.
You hear it first. So Jen and I have decided to exercise. Really? That's the big deal? We've been talking about this for a while, and officially it's been in the books for a while, but we're going to run a half marathon together.
Cool. And
again, not to brag, I've done this before. I've run a couple half marathons. I did my first full marathon right before Oliver was born, and I have not run anything serious since. So I'm 2 years with a run here and there at best. And when Jen was turning 30, she had on her list, her 30 for 30 list, to run a half marathon. And she ended up only doing a 5K. Again, this was right as she was going into med school, starting that process, very busy.
Oh, yeah.
She had a really good habit for exercise. She'd done tons of these like workout DVDs and stuff. But running was never, as she just explains, not really her thing. And so this year we decided not to age her, we're turning 40. And so said this is a good time to do it. Yeah. And so we found one that we like that's in the fall. And we've already started running. Like, we exercise together. And what I've, and she knows this. I tell her this, I'm completely mansplaining it to her. But it's also for me to this is the verbal acknowledgement of how this goal is going to work. The goal is to run the half together. And I love it because I get to help her do something a goal that I had once.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to do this. And I really didn't know what I was doing. And I was too stubborn to ask for help. So I just kind of faked it and was lucky enough to do it. And then actually asked for help and got help and improved, and went beyond that. But it's mini goals. And so the easiest thing to do for someone to say, this is a great example. I want to run a half marathon, 13 miles. Right, 13.1. It's a little more. Important one's very important. That's a lot. And if you're not a runner, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I played sports in high school. Not that I'm not an Al Bundy type. I wasn't great. I've exercised throughout life. I've had gym memberships and things like that. Like, it's not completely foreign, but up until I decided to really do something, I had not run more than a couple miles at once. And it's very overwhelming to think about. And so what we've done is we started, and this is the same true for Jen, who's historically not a runner. The goal isn't to run a half marathon. Like, ultimately it is, but goal one is to run a 5K.
Yeah.
So 3 miles. A little over 3 miles. What is it, 3.2, something like that? Much more manageable. And even before that, our goal, our first runs, the goal was to do a mile without stopping.
Cool.
We could do whatever power walk we wanted to, but not physically stopping.
Right.
And I'm not even saying that's the best way to train, because there's plenty of programs that have you, run, jog, walk, stop, whatever plan you're doing. But that first step. And so our goal, 5K, 10K, half. And that's spread out over like 9 months.
Nice.
So that is, I think, anyone who's listening saying, I have this big goal, I want to write a book. That's one of my personal goals. I don't have like a time limit set on it. I haven't set the goal that way. And I actually have like 3 or 4 different ideas of what I would want to do this on. But the idea of writing a book, I've tried to do this in the past. Like I said, I was an English major. Like, this is something all English majors are supposed to do, like write a book or something.
Right.
Just for the sake of doing it. I have no hopes of grandeur, fame, or anything like that. But sitting down and writing a book is overwhelming. And I've tried to do it. I've sat down and free wrote. I've sat down and all this stuff. It fails every time. And there's no wonder.
Right.
It is such a big thing to try to do.
Right.
So what I've recently done is I put together a plan. I have to fill in the blanks because I have, again, decide which direction I want to go on. But the goals are set. It's not a goal of write a book, write 50,000 words, right? I've written, and since June of 2019, when I got my first contract for writing, I'm just about at 1 million published words as of this week. I'm a little under that.
Jeez.
That is the entire Harry Potter universe. That's all the books. And some of those books are almost 200,000 words. So a normal book is 50,000 words. like a normal novel or something like that, some of that range. Obviously, they vary. Hemingway might be more like 100 words because his books are really short. But my ability to write 50,000 words, yeah, I'll do that this month. Easy.
Right.
But it's a variety of topics that are handed to me, right? So it's overwhelming to sit down and I'm going to write 30,000 words. I'm going to write a short book. But to say, here's the process I'm going to go through. I'm going to write an outline. That's step one. Goal one, outline. Free think the outline. And maybe that's not the official, maybe step one is picking a topic, but outline. And then each outline is going to have a subset of kind of not necessarily chapters, but sections.
Right.
And each of those sections is going to be an article. A lot of stuff I write, most of my articles are 500 to 1,000 words. So when you think of, when I write 100,000 words, that's 100 articles or 200 articles, somewhere in between, depending on what I'm doing. So it's a lot of articles that I do them every day. Boom, boom, boom. And you think to yourself, yeah, because that's easy for you. Just like walking to the mailbox is easy for you. You can do that.
Right.
So if you want to run, start there. Now I'm not writing a 50,000 word book. I'm writing 200 articles.
Yep.
I will do that in about 2 months for my job.
Yep.
I'm doing about one. Yeah, I'll do that in about 2 months. So it's crazy, right? Like it's just absolutely crazy to think writing a book is overwhelming, but writing a chapter, okay, that's a lot still. But writing a single section of a chapter, all right, that's not overwhelming.
Right.
That's easy to do. It's the same thing with really, I think any goal, you want to break it into micro goals. So think about, you're finishing grad school, right?
Yep.
I forgot where you are, and you're somewhere in there.
2 weeks.
It's easy for someone who says, I want to go back to college for grad school. I want to go to college to begin with. I want to get my doctorate, whatever it is, education. And to think, well, man, it's going to take, this grad program here is like 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And you say, man, it's 2.5 years. I don't know if I have that time.
Right.
Well, guess what? Outside of some accident and knock on wood that doesn't happen, you're going to live for 2.5 more years. And so you can do nothing during that time.
Right.
And then you're no closer to that goal of a higher education or that degree or that training, or you can do something.
Right.
And that's why I love the program that I did. And you're in the same one, because it's not all the classes at once. It's one class for 6 weeks.
Yep.
Can you do 6 weeks of a class?
Right.
Sure you can. Can you do it again? Okay.
Yep.
And that's when Jen and I ran our first mile together, and she said, I haven't ran, it's been years since she's tried to run anything serious like that. And at the end, oh, my legs feel weird. Like I feel itchy. Like it just, I feel a little off. Like I haven't done this, but I feel good overall. And I say, the reality is that half is doing this 13 times.
Yeah.
Sounds a little overwhelming, but you just did it once. Could you do it again? Yeah, I guess I could. Right. Could you do it again after that? Yeah. So those little steps make a huge difference. And so that's my encouragement, listeners out there, your goal, whatever it happens to be, write it down. Big title. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to put out an album, whatever it is. And a lot of my things are very, I get into creative things. That's where my mind goes. Your goals could be, you might just want to dig a really big hole. I don't know. Whatever it is you want to do.
Right.
Like Joey at the beach.
Yes.
I dug a hole. Write that on top of your paper and then break that down into the steps that it'll take to get there. Even something as simple as I'm going to lose weight. That's a pretty overwhelming goal. That's easy to fail. That's why everyone fails at that goal. We all have it every January 1.
Yep.
I'm going to lose weight. This is the year I'm going to get in shape. And then by January 10, we're stuffing our face with pizza.
Yep. Because
that sucked. That was really hard to do. But what's going to get you there, right? What's going to get me to losing weight? I need to eat right. Okay, what does that mean? Break that into sub goals.
Yep.
I think it was a Reddit post. I can't figure. I don't remember where it's from. But the idea was on goals, and the person was saying, you have to be the kind of person to help your future self. So what's going to help future Will run faster? So part of my goal, again, to run this half and to help Jen and I run this half together, it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited. It's super love birdie, cutesy dootsy, go throw up, right. Because husband and wife, we're going to run. And people do it all the time. We're certainly not the first, but it feels good.
I'll hold your hair if you hold mine.
Yeah. Thinking about that goal. Okay, so today, what decisions am I making that will help that goal? Yeah. That's future Will. That's not until October, right? So part of me could say let future Will worry about that.
Right.
Well, future Will doesn't want to be overweight with sore knees and out of shape after a mile and a half or out of breath. Right. So what can I do today? Well, I can make sure I exercise. And yesterday's a great example. Jen came home exhausted from work, still a little sore from some of the workouts. And I said, go get your running clothes. We're going to run. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah. We already talked about which days we're going out. We're going out multiple times a week. And the fact that you're working tired, like that sucks. And we don't have to run as fast, but we're doing it. Like we're going to do that because that's a decision that come October when we're running this half, we're going to be like, I'm so glad past me decided to put on my shoes and hit the road that day when I wouldn't have otherwise. At the same time, we also have to forgive our past selves. So I can set up for the future and my future self and say, hey, I want to put you in a good position. But I also have to look back at myself and say, you know what? There was that day I could have ran and I didn't. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to forgive myself because I understand what I was going through and I'm going to do better next time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think we get to that. I'm going to lose weight. Oh, man, I ate that pizza. Screw it. I can't do this. I failed.
Right.
I failed my goal. And so being able to look back and say, you know what? Yeah, you didn't do well that day. You ate the pizza, the whole pizza.
Right.
2 whole pizzas. Let's keep raising the stakes. But it's another day, get over it. And then the final thing that article or that guy was talking about, he said, every day do something towards your goal. Something. So if my goal is to write a book, and maybe my goal is to write, I break it down and I'm going to write 500 words a day, 100 words a day. Something achievable. That's what my micro goal is broken into. If it's a busy day, my kid's off, he's sick, I'm by myself with him all day, Jen's at work and busy, we can't get anything accomplished, I don't even get a sec, he doesn't want to nap that day, like I can't sit at the computer for a second. Before I go to bed, I type one word, and I've done something towards that goal. Is it that impactful? Maybe not. Is one step going to help me closer to that marathon? Maybe not. But I want to, at the end of the day, say, I didn't do a good job today prioritizing for my goal, but I did something. I want to get in the habit of doing something because that next something is 10 words. It's a half mile. It's a mile.
Yeah.
I put out to Jen. We ran yesterday. We did a mile. It's a 13-minute mile, which for runners are thinking, it's not very fast. For people who are out of shape, they're going, oh my God, Speedy Gonzalez over here.
Right.
For us, awesome. The best mile that we've ran together.
Nice.
Just still over 13 miles. And I told Jen, see this 13 miles or 13 minutes plus, 2 minutes to warm up, 15 minutes to cool down and stretch, 10 minutes to take a shower, whatever it is. So we're still under an hour to this entire workout with everything else around it.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing, can you squeeze this in on days that you get home late? Is this too much? And she said, no, actually, this doesn't take as long to do just the mile.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. To do that, to do that mile. Even on the days. Now we've set up a schedule so we know which days we're running, but even for one of those days, I'm just not feeling it. Are you feeling a mile? Are you feeling, let's just go out and run half step. Let's go out and run 100 meters.
Yeah.
1/16 of a mile and see what goes on. When I was in Costa Rica, another story. I can tell them all day. You got a lot of editing to do.
Yeah.
I took pride in that I was really good at working with the kids who were homesick because I had a method that worked every time, and I would just ask for one day because they're only there for a week, 8 days total if you count travel days. And I had a girl who was there day one. She came to me and said, well, I'm homesick. I want to go home. I don't think I can do this. And the reality is could I get her on a plane the next day and get her back home? Sure. There's only 5 more days left, and she had just got there.
Wow.
You don't know what you're missing. And I'd really feel bad because you're not going to get your money back. I said, all right, I understand where you're coming from. I feel you. This is new. So can you give me one day? Let's talk tomorrow at dinner and tell me if you feel the same way. If you feel the same way, then we can talk about how to get you a ticket because I can't get you home tonight. We're 4 hours from the airport. It's already nighttime. We can't get you out of here today. Give me tomorrow until tomorrow night. And she says, okay, I can do that. And the next day came around, and by God, she said, I'm homesick. I still want to go home. I said, all right, I feel you. It's Wednesday, so I can't get you out tonight. Can you give me till tomorrow? And then we'll talk. Yeah, I can give you till tomorrow. Okay. And we did it for about 3 days. And finally, she stopped saying she wanted to go home because it took that much time for her to make friends and kind of be where she was.
Right.
The same thing happened. We were ziplining. This is the best story. The whole podcast. This could be the one story you tell on the whole podcast. We were ziplining in Costa Rica. Again, I was very fortunate. I feel like I'm bragging when I talk about this. I was working with, again, all these cool people and full-timers who are like Harvard graduates. I was a warm body when they needed a person to do it, and somehow I, did a good enough job. They kept me. But we're ziplining, the best zip lines in the world in Costa Rica over the Arenal volcano. Incredible. And the kids were fine, but there was this guy, and you would think, muscles. Like this guy flips tires every day. Nice. He's like, gotta be, into the fitness, big muscles on top of muscles, right? He's scared to zip line. Now that first zip line, the highest one, it's 600 feet, 650 feet above the top of the rainforest.
Oh, dang.
And so it's not uncommon for the kids to get a little scared up there because it's a 400 or 500 meter, about a quarter mile. And you're going from two hills. You've got a top of the mountain here, top of the mountain here, and the zip line goes across over the valley. It's insane. It's amazing. It's not uncommon for people to be scared of that because and you're in a harness. If you let go, you're not going to fall. The worst thing that could happen to you is you're not going to make it across. Like right. You don't get, like you let go and like your wind resistance stops you and you kind of fall short, probably not even that far. And then they'll have you either pull yourself in or someone will come out and get you. So it's not, I've seen it happen with like kids who are lighter that just couldn't get the aerodynamics down. Again, but if you're scared of heights or all this kind of stuff, so there's this guy up there and he's just like, he's shaking. He's got these big muscles. Part of me is kind of laughing a little bit. It's a little Schadenfreude where I'm like, oh, look at this guy, like big tough guy, can't zip line.
Right.
But then I realized, like, you know what? He needs some help. And there's just a technique that I use with the kids. Same thing that I do with, and I went and talked to the guy. I said, listen, you've only got 8 zip lines to do. And the 8th one is just like 25 feet. It's basically going to get you to the ground off the platform. It doesn't even count. You've got 7 of these. This is the biggest one. Now, there was one that was longer. There was one half a mile long, and he went like 40 miles an hour. It was insane. Nice. I didn't tell him that. I told him, this is the highest one. If you can do this one, you can do the rest. And he's like, I just don't think I can do it. So I'll tell you what. Can you do one of them? Can you just do this one? If you don't like it when you get to the other end, these guys will take you down. Like, I know the employees, like the guys will take you down. And you can tell he's not happy with it. I said, I'll tell you what. Like, you hold my hand, and when it's time to let go, one finger at a time. One finger. Just let go. Which is insane, right? Like, this is a grown man. And I'm not trying to downplay his masculinity, but it's just insane, like, to me. But I get it. Like, this guy, clearly the guy's scared of heights or something. Like, and so he says, okay, let's do that. And so we hold on and, we like, okay, 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, whatever, and let go. And he goes across the zip line. Now, here's the thing I didn't tell him is that once you go across, the only way down is to hike through the rainforest. Now, that those trails are there for emergencies. A big thunderstorm comes in. You don't want to be on a metal cable 600 feet above the treetops. But you're talking a pretty rigorous hike that is not easily done.
Right.
Like, it is again, you're ziplining through here. So
yeah. I
don't tell them that. And even if you zipline back over, you've got a pretty good hike to get to the bottom. So once you do one, you have to do them all.
Yeah.
Like, there really isn't an option. But I figured if I could just have him do one, he sees how easy it is, he'll love it. And he did. He enjoyed it. He got to their side. He was still shaking. He was near tears every single zip line. But he did the one and proved he could do it. I proved I could do it. I ran that first mile. I wrote the first chapter. Okay, I can do this.
Right.
So those little victories, and that's what I always would tell them. We need to earn little victories, whether it's getting over homesickness for one day, whether it's talking to one stranger at that conference you attended, whether it's putting a first piece of paint on the canvas, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Once you okay, I can do this. Okay, that wasn't so bad. I wrote 100 words. All right, I just need to do that 5,000 more times, whatever it is.
Well, even when you came out to visit me in Hawaii, and we went and we were jumping in the waterfall, and everybody was climbing up the mudslide on the left, and it was like the higher jump, and you finally helped me work up the courage to go up and do the highest jump. And I came over to see the video of me doing it, and you're like, oh no, I didn't record it. You have to do it again. And I'm like, what? And you're like, well, anybody can do it once. Like, to get over your fear of heights, you got to go do it a second time. So you only recorded the second one. And I was like, oh my gosh, because it took everything in me to work up the courage just to do it once. But I did it the second time because I had to get it on video to prove that I did it.
Yeah, I'm a horrible friend sometimes, but it just seems cruel.
But it worked.
But it worked. But yeah, and I actually do believe that there's some things that the adrenaline gets you through it once.
Yeah.
So on one hand, you know that you survived it. You know you can do it again. But on the other hand, like now you have to take control of your fear because you experienced it.
Right.
And that's what that was. Like you did it once off pure adrenaline because everyone was there. It was pressure. They were counting down. All these people were watching. But the second time, now you know what that fear is, but you could do it again and again. My favorite part of that is that when we got back and Josh, who was your first guest, the Jeopardy champion, he saw those videos and said, I've always been scared to do that. Now I have to because you guys did it. I have to do it too, which is the other great thing about when you have goals is taking other people with you.
Right.
Again, now I don't think his goal was ever to jump off of that particular jump. And those who are interested in what we're talking about, if you watch the Jason Mraz video for I'm Yours, that's the spot where they're jumping off the cliffs.
Yep.
I don't know if they jump off that tall one, but probably 45 feet or so off the water.
Yeah, I know they jump off the one to the right.
Yeah.
In that video.
But Joshua certainly had goals to do, like, and he's still killing it in Hawaii. Like as a tour guide, I went back and visited. I did a tour with him. That guy was absolutely killing it. Mm-hmm. So this is a shameless plug. Go back to episode 1, give it a listen. He saw his friends and someone he knew you, like you lived with him and he knew you were scared of that jump. That's why neither of you felt pressured to do it when you went to those falls before. You're like, you want to do it? Nope. I'm good. But then he was encouraged, and I'm assuming he's done it since. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know he's done lots of other cool things that he would have been scared of at first.
Right.
But that's the best part, and that's hopefully this podcast, as people are listening to this, they hear, oh man, Will and his wife are going to run a half marathon. Like, I'm not interested in that personally. Maybe your listeners are saying that. I'm not interested in running a half marathon, but I am interested in doing this other thing.
Right.
And if they can get off their lazy butts and run 1 mile at a time until they get there, like I can do the same thing. Or for those people who are like looking for that goal, I'm going to tell you, like, if you're physically able and you don't have an idea, run a 5K. Like, make that your goal. Because I promise you, it's the embodiment of goal setting. Yeah. Each step.
Yeah. Like,
not just mile by mile by mile, but putting one foot in front of the other one and moving forward. That's how you do a race. The benefit of that and the health benefits, like it's mentally, like not just physically, but mentally. I'm going to sound like you can tell, like I call myself a runner now because I'm not stopped talking about it. And that's what runners do. We just mention it. If I'd have mentioned it in the first 30 seconds, then it's official. But that's true really for any goal. I just think if you don't have one, pick something that you can do. You're gonna get some momentum, and some of my best thinking about what I want to do happens on a morning run.
Yeah, exercise in general it's the best refresher because
absolutely
you physically make a commitment and you physically fulfill it on your own, and then you get an immediate reward by feeling better. You get mental clarity, you get endorphins, so the rest of your day is better. You feel better, your body is restored and it regenerates, and you get health benefits because you physically accomplished a goal that you set out for yourself.
Yeah. And it hurts. If you're not a runner, that first mile, first half mile, that first exercise that you do, you're going to feel it for a couple days.
Yeah.
And that's because with any goal that we're not used to, I mean, it's one thing if you're currently, like I said, I write for work. That's what I do. And so to say I want to write something on my own, yes, that's an accomplishment, but I'm already in that habit. So sitting down and writing for an hour, not outside of my wheelhouse. It's what I get paid to do.
Yeah.
But if it's something that I never did before, it's going to hurt, right? Like it's going to be challenging. There's going to be an obstacle to it. My body's going to say, no, I don't think I want to sit and type for an hour. I can't look at a computer screen that long. I don't want to, like, I ran a mile. I don't want to do that again. My legs hurt. I sweat. None of that's pleasant. But that's because at heart, it's easy just to stay put and not do anything. Like, we let life pass us by because we don't want to feel that uncomfortableness of moving forward with something. And I'm feeling it too. Like, I don't want to, like, I keep putting this on, like, Jen's not a runner, and I've been hurt. I mean, like, my leg, it's been, I mean, we've been around for a little while now, and I'm still feeling it. Like, my body's telling me, dude, you can watch TV. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could, like, there are potato chips at the store.
Yeah.
You could drive there. You could sit the entire time. And so to put that, but that's the other thing. You just, again, one step, and it gets there.
And I think the important thing to bring out about the guy on the zip line is his fear was rational. Like, a fear of heights is very rational, because falling from a really high platform in the jungle would probably mean death. And that's a legitimate fear. And the majority of people's fears stopping them from even attempting their goals, their hopes, and their dreams are irrational fears. And it's usually the fear of failure. So if I don't start, I can't fail. Well, you already failed, because you literally can't succeed if you don't try, if you don't make an attempt. So that's already failure.
That's right. As Homer Simpson once said, the first step to failure is trying. What's interesting about that is something I've been learning in how to talk to children and, like, the whole science behind it. And I'm, like, way ahead of where Oliver is, but, overly concerned about what happens when he starts talking back. But that guy, you put it out, like, he had a very rational fear. And what was interesting is the people who work there, and these are all great people. They're locals, Costa Ricans. They speak English, they speak Spanish, like, whatever. And they're excellent at it. So, but the thing that they did wrong is they were going for the logical explanation for his emotional fear. Like, yes, there is a very rational fear of heights. Falling from that height, certain death.
Yeah.
But they went over the safety features. Well, you've got this harness and has a secondary harness on it. These cables were built by the same people who built the ski lifts in the Swiss Alps. It's the best company in the world to do this. We've never had an accident. You're wearing a helmet. Not that would help, but,
right.
They're going all of the safety features. This is logically why you shouldn't be afraid. But his fear wasn't based on, like, logic. Yes, it was a rational fear, but it wasn't like, he wasn't going, I calculated the wind speed today and the height of the trees. Like, it was emotional. Like, there was something there. And when I spoke to him on that emotional level, hey man, this is high, this is fast. Let's together, like, I'll hold your hand. Like, I'm gonna comfort you, and I'm gonna be with you for this as much as I can be.
Right.
And send you on your way one step at a time. Like, we met emotion with emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that happens with our goals. Like, I can say all day how I want to lose weight. I can look at how calories affect weight. Should I count calories, or does it matter what I eat? There's a lot of schools of thoughts, but in general, like, should I eat different kinds of food? Should I cut back on how much I eat? Should I fast? Should I whatever? Right? Like, we have all these ideas, and I can read every book. I can talk to dietitians. I can watch YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever I want to do, and logically understand how to lose weight. But for many people, and I'm included in this category, like, our eating habits aren't based on logic.
Right.
I don't make meals looking at nutritional value to say, well, I got enough protein in this meal plus enough vitamin D. I don't do that. It's like, what sounds good? What feels good? What's calling out to me? Like, many of us emotionally, we don't feel like running because we're tired. We're exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. We don't write because we feel that's selfish with our time. We should be doing something around the house or whatever it is, right? Like, we have these reasons, but they're not logical.
Right.
Like, again, your goal of writing that book is not being stopped because you look and go, well, I can only type 15 words per minute, and so it would take me. People take years to write books. Like, that's not. But the emotional. So when you're either coaching yourself or someone else, where are they coming from? They may have a rational, logical reason that they are being held back, and so you may be able to hit them with that. Well, I don't have enough time. Are you saying that because emotionally you feel exhausted? Because there's a different solution to that than there is if someone's logically looking at their calendar going, well, I get up at this time, do this, and this is what my day looks like. I don't have time for that. You can have a logical reaction to that. Well, what if we move this around? Let's look at this. You take too long doing that. Like you could have that audit of your time. And we can all do that.
Right.
Anyone who says they don't have time, if you do an audit, you'll find you have it. You may need to have that time to relax.
Yeah.
You might say, well, if I don't watch TV and I run, but maybe you need to sit down and watch TV for half an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to sit down and talk to your wife or husband and not work on the house. But then there's an emotional response too, right? I'm just so exhausted. How am I going to find time to do that? The challenge there isn't you're eating too much because you're logically unaware. It's because there's some other issue. What else is holding you back from your goal? If you're not dealing with those things, like I may not be able to eat healthy because I'm dealing with let's call it what it is. Like I try to find a reason to leave the house every day because I don't really have to leave the house. So we go to the park, we go shopping, like groceries. We'll even just go window shop, stuff like that. But it's hard when you're out to not go, well, let's grab a slice of pizza at Costco. Let's grab an ice cream cone while we're out. Just, it's hard not to do that sometimes. Yeah. And is that because I see some logical value in? No. Because my kid likes it? Of course he does. But he's not asking for it. He doesn't know how yet. But it's attached to something. It's attached to wanting to get out and feel social. Like I get to talk to another human being because I order something.
Right.
I don't know. Like, but that's definitely there where it's easier for me to eat something that I really don't want to when I'm by myself with the kid than when the three of us are together. Because together we're stronger to make those kinds of choices. And that same thing's going to happen for whatever the goal is. Your obstacle may not be that you can't do it or you don't know how. It might be because you're depressed. You're unhappy with something else. You're lonely.
Yep.
All the vices that we have, we fill our time with something. And so it's a matter of changing that habit. So if I could reward myself with a nice run and those endorphins instead of an ice cream cone, I can still be rewarded. I can be healthier. I can make good choices and achieve my goal. But I have to identify that and say, okay, I'm eating an ice cream cone, not because I love ice cream, which I do. Right. And I don't want to make everyone who's listening thinking, dude, how much ice cream do you eat? Very little. About once a week. My wife and I have a treat. We watch This Is Us on Tuesday nights, box of tissues and a plate of cookies, and that's our tradition. So even on any diet, we still have something. Again, I know everyone's out there thinking, like, you guys are so lame. Yeah, and you're jealous. I know. But it's interesting to think about that, like the emotional response, rational fears, and kind of how are you combating? Are you just telling yourself, dude, don't be scared of heights? Like, that's stupid to be scared of heights. Maybe it is, but that's not how you're going to get yourself over it. What am I really scared of here? Am I scared of falling? Well, no, I've got two harnesses attached to this cable that it's not going to snap. It's not going to break. And if you look at where it's tied down in 8 different places on each side of the mountain, like you'd have to have a tremendous disaster for something like that to fail you. Is that why? Am I actually scared of it? Like, am I scared of flying because I actually think the plane's going to go down? No. It's safer than driving a car. If logically I was scared of flying for that reason, I wouldn't drive my car. I wouldn't leave the house. Right. That's not why what is it? Am I scared of the small space? Am I scared of whatever? Like, what is it that stops us from our goals? That's I think it's an excellent question. Is if you have a goal and you're not going after it, what is it? And it could very well be, I'm overwhelmed by the scope of writing an entire novel. Okay, micro goals. All right, there's a logical explanation. But if it's not the overwhelming, if it's fear of failure, okay, I can't logically convince you not to be scared of failure. That's a pretty normal thing. Like, no one wants to fail. Right. So I apologize. Listen, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know. Yeah. Well, get to the point. What do I do about my fear of failure? I don't know. Fail. Yeah. Fail often and fail quick. Right. That's my answer. If I'm gonna try to do something, I want to fail as early in that process as I can, so I know if I need to move on to something else. Yeah. And take as long as you need to fail. That's okay. It's okay to try and fail. But if someone out there listening to this saying, "Well, I think I could do a better podcast," okay, probably could, but no offense. Go for it. And if you get a couple episodes in and realize that this is not your ball game, I'm not good at this. All right. Fail often, fail quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Embrace it. That's, I heard that on it was a work podcast. They talked about embracing failure, like almost celebrating failure.
Yeah.
To a point, because you're not celebrating the fact that you failed, that you tried, that you had a plan. And it's not to say like, I have no plan in place, I'm just gonna go out and run. I got down to the street, I don't like this, I quit. That's a poor plan. It didn't succeed because it was poorly executed.
Right.
But if you go into, you have a training plan and a workout plan, and you go out and then you get shin splints and then you can't run, and then you're just like, this isn't for me, I can't do it. You can celebrate the fact that you did the process. The process paid off. Right? Like the process won.
Yeah.
The results may not be what you wanted in finishing the race or the whatever it was, but
we're all a bunch of failures.
All over the place. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I know we're like this whole episode. I feel like the other guests, like they've got in specifics with their goals and stuff. And so those were expecting that today. My apologies, but we're being very abstract with this, but there's some really good stuff that I had not thought about before just in this conversation that's kind of coming out. And thinking of that, and it's that, you said we're all a bunch of failures. But that's a good thing. Like we're scared of failure because we're ridiculed for it. We're made fun of for it. But as an adult, when you were a kid and you weren't good at baseball, the other kids made fun of you because kids are horrible. So son, if you're listening to this someday, yes, you are horrible sometimes, and you will be more horrible in the future. I'm sure of it. But I don't know if that developed, if our parents put too much pressure on us. I don't know where it comes from exactly, but I think the culture we're in, we reward achievements, which is interesting because now that the tendency is like, participation trophies, like everyone gets a trophy for trying. I think there's a middle ground where it's like you should be celebrated for being on the team. Yes. Like that participation award is important because you did something versus doing nothing, but success is still valuable. But that idea of the only value is success, I think that's what's hurt us. So that if I'm not sure I can succeed, I'm not even going to put the effort in. I'm not going to try.
Nick Offerman and Amy Poehler have a reality show about crafting. And Nick Offerman always says that they don't talk about the prize because the true reward is a job well done. And that literally should be what this is all about, is not just achieving your goals, but the journey of working towards your goals is absolutely what life is about. It's figuring out, okay, who am I? What makes me feel alive? What am I passionate about? And am I continually, or at least purposely, working towards the things that I'm passionate about, the things that make me feel like I'm being true to who I am? And if you're purposely doing those things, then you're living a journey that is perfect for you, and you're being who you're supposed to be. That's what I feel when people talk about having a calling. They feel like they're called to do a thing. They're fulfilling their purpose. So they're speaking to all those things that make them feel like they're alive. And it doesn't matter if really, there's no, I succeeded. Okay, then what? Do you retire from being yourself? No, you don't stop being yourself. So to find your identity, find your purpose, and find, your special purpose, you have to find something that really brings your passion, and it should exceed your lifetime. So there should be irons in the fire that go unresolved when we pass away. So I would hope that there are things that you start and don't get to finish that your son can pick up after you're gone and run with, because you've done so much work on that goal already that it's easy to pick up and take that torch and run with it if he so chooses. If not, hey, I can take this and hand it to somebody else and say, here's this passion project my dad had, and I feel really strongly that somebody fulfills it. I'm not into it, but somebody should.
Well, even if it's not like my project continues, but he has a project of his own.
Right.
Like that, at the end of the day, if my kid, because I'll tell you, I don't know what to think when Oliver goes to school and they have whatever career day or what does your daddy do or who's your hero or whatever it is. He's going to say, my mom is a doctor. Like, she literally saves lives. Like, she helps people become healthier and keeps them healthy. And, like, that's admirable, and it's a lot of work to get there, and it's really cool. And I wonder something, like, what's he going to say about his dad? My dad plays on the computer all day. Like, he writes articles to help people get better search engine results. He, like, is this important? I mean, it's a piece of an overall puzzle. And I always wonder, I've had this, that's one of the other challenges you have when you're like, well, what am I doing? Who am I? If I was, I'm a photographer, but I don't have a lot of work here. Like, starting from scratch in Florida, like, I basically like have failed out of being a legit, I mean, for the moment. Now, maybe when I get some more time and I can put back into marketing myself, if I decide to go that way, I don't know. But, if I had that kind of job, I'd say, yeah, my dad creates photos and he takes pictures for these publications or he does this and that. But he can't say that for now. So the best I can hope for is that the balance of his mom and dad. So he sees his mom as she had a clear goal in terms of what she wanted to do for a living. She went to college. She was a science teacher. She did grad school, med school, residency, and she achieved that. And she's doing this awesome job. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that he looks at his dad and says, my dad may not have that one. Like, he's had a lot of different jobs. He's done a lot of different things. But the consistent piece is that he consistently sets these goals and he goes after them. Little, big, medium size, whatever those things are. And if he picks up that, he may not want to be a musician. Like, I'm trying to get more gigs in the Tampa area. If you're listening and you have an opening, I'm not half bad. The other half is not good, but together it works out okay. And things like that. But he sees that and says, yeah, you know what? My hope, and it's crazy to think this, because in the last couple of years, I've been super entrepreneurial. Like, I want to start businesses. And every time I see a business, I like break it down, analyze it in my mind, like figure out, like, and I romanticize it. Like, how cool it would be to, run a subway. So you're like, right. Oh, that would be so cool. But like, looking at all these things, which is helpful because I'm helping a lot of people. I do a little bit of freelance, like consulting type work. If someone has a business and I can come in and say, this is how, not how this should work, but have you considered this angle? Let's change the way you're thinking about this because of that. But I have started, I don't even know how many businesses, like little things. They're all like side hustles. Yeah. It's technically what you'd call them. And I can't wait. If my son's anything like me, he'll be in middle school and he'll have his own, whether it's a lemonade stand or he's mowing grass. I mean, I was mowing grass at 14, get some money in my pocket. Like, whether he's doing stuff like that or he's making millions reviewing toys on YouTube.
Right.
So jealous. We could have done that if YouTube existed and we could afford toys.
Exactly.
But that would be a big win for me at the end of the day. And I look forward to that. Like, I'm going to encourage that kind of thinking. Like, if he says, hey, Dad, I want to buy the new Nintendo, whatever it happens to be, in a couple of years. And I say, all right, you got to earn it. Yeah. And let's work together to figure out what you can do. Like, let's set a goal. You need to make, figure out how to get $100 in your pocket. I said $250 for that trip in middle school. I begged. I didn't think about how can I make. I mean, I mowed grasses, I guess, is what ended up happening. But I didn't have the entrepreneurial spirit, which I have now. And if I pass it on, I'll be very happy.
Yeah.
But the one, speaking of, I think he's going to wake up here in a second. And we've been talking way too long, so you have a lot of editing to do because no one wants to listen to this entire episode. I do want to share one last story that it deals with goals. Because I think it's very easy, as we've already talked about, to say, okay, I'm going to run a half marathon and I'm going to set up, I've got 9 months. So here's my training plan. I'm going to start with these micro goals. And I want to emphasize how important that is. Micro goal might be as simple as I'm going to get my running shoes and put them by the door. So when I get up in the morning, that part's already done.
Yeah.
Because that's a chance for me to fail at the next part of the goal, which is to go outside and run around the block, whatever it is.
So micro goals are achievable goals.
In business, they talk about, creating actionable goals, things that are achievable. So I'm going to increase sales by 1,000,000%. Okay, that's not going to happen, right? But I'm going to add 2 new clients to the roster. Okay, that's achievable. I'm going to encourage your listeners, anyone who stumbles upon this, to not just set achievable goals. Yes, your micro goals need to be achievable. You need to have some wins along the way to build momentum. But I'm going to encourage you to set goals that are going to take you out of that comfort level, that's going to bend you in a way that you don't really like to get started. Because that's what makes you a better person. And that's what makes that goal even more achievable. If I set a goal to run a mile, I can do that. I can't do it as fast as I used to, but I can do that. Is it still like, can I celebrate? Well, maybe a little bit. But if my ultimate goal is to do more, that's when I'm going to feel the win. And it goes back to, before I took that job with Rustic Pathways, this is a story I often like to tell. I was, at the time, so I was teaching, and I worked for the local theater. I did some work with them, and the director of the theater program was moving on. He was moving back to New York. He was a mentor, a really good friend of mine, and he was moving back home, and they were looking to hire someone new to take his job. I'm not saying I was guaranteed that position, because whoever was at the theater might say, no, we had no thoughts of that, but it was leaning that direction, that I was going to take a summer position, and then he was going to leave, and then I would take over, potentially. And I think that even, because that conversation happened when I got back from Costa Rica about taking that role. I had just got accepted into a grad school for writing, which was a dream of mine, to like get the MFA in creative writing and maybe eventually teach or something like that for creative writing and writing programs. I just gotten landed at a playhouse I had done theater in before, or with the particular director and the style of theater. It was really cool. Big deal. Like, I got a role. A lot of things were in my favor, and I was comfortable. And this is like, you're talking about setting a goal. Like, these were kind of things that I wanted. Like, I was 27 or so, I think, finally in line for a job, like my dream job. Like, I'd worked in that theater for a while and done some of those programs, was doing theater in the community, was connected in my neighborhood. Like, I was making events happen. It was a small town, so, not to brag too much, but like, things were looking good.
Yeah.
My ultimate goal was to, at this point, I'm in my, upper 20s, but was to be kind of badass. I wanted to be a better person than I was. I wanted to stretch. I wanted to be a character in the movie who goes through whatever to become the better person.
Right.
And that's when I got the job offer for Costa Rica. And the story with that is I applied for that job 2 years prior, and I had an interview over the phone, and it didn't go very well. Part of it was they wanted me to speak in Spanish over the phone, and I couldn't see the other person's mouth, and so I couldn't understand her as well. And that's partially my fault. I was in Seattle. I was on a trip. I was actually on my way out to Hawaii to visit you.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that really killed me is they wanted all kinds of like safety certifications, CPR, lifeguard, things like that. I didn't have any. I was like, I'll get them, but I didn't have them. So they didn't hire me that year.
Yep.
So 2 years go by, I apply again, and I had the first interview, and it went way better. I had my safety certifications. My Spanish was much better. That went really well. I actually had a second interview, and this would have been like in March. And they said, well, we'll get in touch with you the next week or two. Well, the first time I applied, they just never got back to me. So it was a couple months later, I was like, hey, I never heard back. And like, oh, yeah, we didn't give you the job. I was like, well, I get that. So I thought the same thing had happened, and I kind of just forgot about it. And so I'm at work one day, and I get an email that says, hey, we want you to come to Costa Rica in 2 weeks. For 3 weeks. It was a very short time. And I said, oh, my gosh. And I messaged back, and I said, man, this isn't fair. I haven't heard from you in a couple of months. This is like in late May. I haven't heard from you guys in months. Like, you told me 2 weeks. Like, I have all these other things going on. I'm like kind of panicking. I don't know what to do. And they said, okay, I understand that. And this was Thursday. And they said, we need to know by Monday morning. I said, oh my gosh. I actually remember I called you and I said, Mike, let's go to Denny's, the place where the greatest minds of our time still think, the Coliseum of our day or whatever it may be. And
it's the grand slam of knowledge.
I don't know if you remember this. We did the pro-con list. And that list really pointed to staying and doing the things, like the known factors of the job I've always wanted, working with the director I loved working with, continue to make things happen, like all the things. It pointed in that direction, like do with the known thing. Because it's Costa Rica job. This is a company that clearly didn't communicate very well. Yeah. I didn't know where they were sending me, what I was going to be doing. And I knew I was going to make almost nothing. And I was giving up all those other things. Because if I don't, I have to drop out of that play, which is something I'd never done before. Yep. I'd have to, give up all this stuff. And so I think it was on Friday night. And so I went home and thought about it. And as I was reminded, there's a story, Donald Miller, who's still one of my favorite authors. And he has a really good marketing podcast. If you've not listened to the Story Brand Marketing podcast and you're looking for another one to add to your list, or his book, Story Brand Marketing. Anyway, cheap plug. Maybe he and I will become friends now. We have met.
If you're listening, but
I can't add him on LinkedIn because I don't know his email address. So Donald, if you're listening, I just want to be your LinkedIn friend. His book is called Journey of a 1,000 Miles. And he's talking about how they made a movie out of his popular book, Blue Like Jazz, which not his first book, but the one that really got him known. And they're going to make a movie out of it. And the movie was so-so, if you haven't seen it. But he's talking about this process. And so in this, he's talking about how stories work. And that's his whole shtick. Like even with his marketing is a story. It's like how stories work. And he talks about how characters, they're formed. Like think of any movie, something happens to make that character the hero.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Luke Skywalker, his uncle and his aunt and uncle are killed. Frodo is taken out of the Shire. I don't know, what other nerdy movies can we go with? Something happens to kind of force something. Tony Stark is kidnapped and put in a cave. That's, he builds Iron Man, whatever it is. So there's something that happens. They don't just wake up and decide, I'm going to be a hero. They don't just wake up and say, I'm going to be the better person today. Something happens to force that. And then he also talked a lot about how you remember scenes in a movie. Like when you think of Iron Man, like what do you think of? I mean, yeah, I could maybe give you the plot, but I think of, when he busts out of the cave in the first Iron Man suit made out of scrap metal. I think about when the Jericho missiles go off, or whatever it may be for that movie. The ring going into Mordor, or lightsaber battles, whatever it is. Like remember these scenes, and that's what's memorable with any movie. And after thinking about that for a long time, I thought about what in my life is going to be more memorable. Taking a safe job for low pay, to be honest. Being in a community theater production, which I had done before, but this was different. It was a cool opportunity. I'm not downplaying it. It would have been really cool, and all those things. Or doing this really unknown. Send me to the rainforest. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I said, you know what? The pro and con list says stay here, but the idea, my gut tells me go. And so I went. And what happened? I got there immediately. My debit card was eaten by the machine. I had no money. They paid direct deposit. I had no access to that money. Now my expenses were covered, but if I wanted even a bite to eat when we were in town, if I wanted to call home, I needed to buy a phone card. I got dengue, which was awesome. I lost about 50 pounds.
Dengue fever.
40 pounds. Yeah. Which hard work involved. I did a lot of running and only eating rice and beans, which I got sick of, and I will no longer eat beans for the rest of my life. It was rough. And it started off, like, I remember having like a nervous breakdown because I have no access to money. Like, I'm a bit socially awkward as it is. And like all these really cool people are hitting it off. They're all really good friends. And I'm like kind of in the background. Actually, people tell me like, you're really quiet. I don't think you're going to make it. Like that was the mentality.
You're like, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. Little did they know my experience in youth ministry. At least I was good with high school kids. So when the kids showed up, everyone like instantly changed their story. They said, I actually had this happen. They said, we didn't think you were going to survive. And then the first kids came and you started hanging out with them and talking to them. And we knew like, you're going to be awesome. And not to brag, but I was voted like the best guide almost every week.
Nice.
And if I wasn't, I was in the top. I was like tied for the top. Because I love the kids. Like they were great to work with. The guys, a lot of them, like they hung out with each other, which is fine. And I didn't walk away with like great friendships with other guides, a few. But I think I had a bigger impact on some of these kids. Because again, that kid we talked to, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Where he like cries because no one's ever asked him that before. And he finally got that, that, who knows what happened with it. But it ended up being a great summer. I came back and instantly I was just like, well, I was more confident because I lost some weight. I was super tan. 4 months ago, this town was like my dream. I was going to work here, live here. This was going to be it. I got back and said, this town isn't big enough anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen better. Right. I've proven to myself. That was the thing. I proved myself that I could do it. Like I survived a very social awkward situation. I survived a disease that, I don't want to overplay dengue. It's not like malaria, stuff like that. But if you get it, like you can die from it. Like it's a very, like they shut stuff down when people have it, but it's fairly common in the Caribbean. So I'm not part of an elite group, but it was pretty rough. Like there was moments when I was like, so this is what it feels like when you die. Like this is what this is like.
Yeah.
So it was rough in those cases, no money. But at the same time, I survived it. I figured out how to make deals with the local shops. If I took kids in, they'd give me commission for whatever the kids spent in their stores. And I admit, I convinced kids to buy a lot of things they probably didn't need because daddy wanted some ice cream or a postcard or a phone card or whatever it was.
Right.
And survived it. So coming back with that confidence, and that's where it comes from. You achieve one goal. Right, you stretch yourself to get a goal. You write that book when you're not a writer. You make that short film when you don't know what you're doing, even if it's horrible,
Yep.
but you survive it and you say, I'm happy with these results. My first half marathon was ugly. I had no idea what I was doing when I trained. It was ugly, but I did it. And I said, oh my gosh, now I want to do it again. My next half marathon was awesome. I haven't gotten back to, I've run several since then. And that second one was by far the best because I trained, I was ready for it.
Right.
That next book is going to be better. Or even if it's not the same thing, like I ran the half and I say, hey, I can achieve goals. Now I'm going to write that book. Now I'm going to start that podcast. Now I'm going to apply for that new job, whatever, to start my business. Because once you prove yourself that you can do it, what is holding you back?
Right.
Like you're scared of failure. Well, go succeed. Or let me tell you this. I had talked about starting jobs. I've failed a lot. And I'm talking in the last year. I have failed quite a bit. And now some of those they're not complete because I haven't given up. I mean, I moved here with the intention I'm going to be the neighborhood photographer. I'm going to get all the work. And I started on a good path to do that. And I have not done that. I've gotten some work. I have gotten some work, but nowhere near what I thought was possible.
Sure.
And I can blame it on all kinds of things. Part of it is me. I haven't put the time into it that it needs to succeed, but I'm diverted. My attention is other places. I got my notary stamp and started doing loan closings, and I was going to do all these different things. And I've got one place that would hire me, and they stopped bringing me back. It's a whole nother story. We'll just cut it this way. It's not because of me, because I got to fight with their builder. The builder who uses the finance company that was hiring me built my house, and I've been getting on them about some stuff they did wrong, and they told the finance side to cut me out. Which is messed up, but it happened. So I've failed at being a notary, and I'm not getting extra work doing that. I've been pushing hard to get gigs, and the best I'm getting right now, I'm playing farmers markets. I've got offered to play for the exchange for produce, which I'm on board. That's fine, but I'm not getting those other gigs. And I'm actively going after the gigs, not getting them. I was booking musicians, they fired me. A whole nother story. Again, not because I was bad at it. They had they sponsored 2 musicians and they have them work every event. And I partnered with the wrong company. I hate to say it. That was my fault. Like I trusted them, but that was a failure. And the list could go on. Like I've been out here trying to do different things, and it's been fail.
Yeah.
But I just pivot, because my goal, the overarching goal, is to create something that's fulfilling and make some money.
Right.
To help out. And if it cuts back on some of the boring writing I have to do and I can fill it with something fun, then that's even better. But when you're setting goals, right, when you're being who you are or who you want to be, that's part of goal setting too. The first part of your message is who are you and how did you get there, that kind of thing. They say, instead of going, I can't eat carbs, you say, I've chosen to be the kind of person who doesn't eat carbs. Right. And there's power in the way you say that. There's power in saying, I am the person who chooses versus I can't.
Yes.
And so I'm the same way. Like I just list all these failures, but the truth is I can't fail. I can pivot. I can realize something isn't going to work. I can realize something is harder than I thought it was, and I'll wait.
Yeah, and I
a lot of talking.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up here. I just wanted to commend you and say that I think it's important that your son grows up to know that both of his parents are goal-oriented and committed to achieve their goals, and know specifically that they haven't gone down the path of being a martyr to parenthood, because I think that is a sad case for some people, that they use their children as an excuse for giving up on hopes and dreams and their own identity. They give up on achievement and taking risks because now they're a mom or now they're a dad. They think it's being selfless means literally giving up on themselves. And you can still make your child a priority and also fulfill your own needs. And I know I've said this so many times recently, but I can't give love to my family if there's no love within me. I have to fill myself with love. I have to take care of myself. I have to do self-love things to make sure that I'm a healthy person, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. I have to be taken care of so that I can provide those things to my children and to my spouse and all of the people that I encounter. If I'm not a healthy person, I'm no good to the people that are around me. I'm going to start taking life from them if I don't have life to give them. So I think it's very important that your son grows up watching you fulfilling your purpose, your identity, and your goals, because that is the best way to teach him to do that for himself, is not through lip service, but through action. And just like you're doing with your wife, is you're not telling her how to run a marathon, you're holding her hand and doing it with her. You met the guy on the zip line on an emotional level and said, you don't have to do this alone. I'm here with you. I'm physically here with you. And Jen, you don't have to run a half marathon alone. I'm physically doing it with you. And Oliver, whatever goals you have in life, you don't have to do them alone because your mom and I are here with you. We should be doing that with everybody in our society. And what are your goals? And like you said, you have some groups on Facebook and Reddit that you can kind of connect with other people. And I think that's what people are missing, is find people with similar goals and connect, have accountability partners so that you can kind of fight through these
Absolutely.
macro goals and help each other get the macro or micro successes so that you can actually fulfill the macro successes.
Yeah. And there's no shortage of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like I found a running group recently that I took Oliver in the running stroller and we went. I was the only one with a stroller with me. You know, we went because like it's another group of people with that same mindset. Yeah. There's writing groups. There's a podcast meetup in Tampa that I could go to. These things exist. And if they don't, this is the one thing that I don't know where it came from for me, but you and I have done this. If we say, I really want this kind of thing to exist, this network, this whatever, and it doesn't, you make it.
Yeah.
So if I was here in this community and I wanted to run group because it's accountability, it's encouragement, it's getting other people together, if that didn't exist, then there's no reason I can't message the people in my community Facebook groups and say, hey, I'm going to start this running group. We're going to do this and this. Yep. Come join me. Maybe they would, maybe they don't, but that option's there. And how many people out there are looking for that thing? They want to do the same thing you're doing, right? But they don't know how to proceed, and they don't know that there's a group out there, or they don't know there isn't a group and they don't know what to do about it. And you come out and say, hey, let's together do this thing. Like, who's interested in achieving this? I mean, I've been part of writing groups. I've been part of, I could go on, running groups and all these things because it's encouraging. And it gives you other people, like you said, like-minded goals. And there are people, I love, running groups are a good example because I went this last Thursday and there was the one woman who, it was Florida cold, which means it was in the 50s. Nice. So some people are like giant, like burqa jackets, but she's in like a tank top and short running shorts. Like, and you know, she's a little bit older, probably in her 40s or 50s. You can tell she's got a runner's body, like tone and thin, long legs. Like she's a runner. And she ran at the back of the group. And you know she's faster than probably everybody there. But she was in the back of the group with a few people walking them along, like helping them do it. It's just, you know, it's a 3-mile run down and back to the street. There were folks that I met someone that she was there her first time. And I don't know if she'd ever run before that. She seemed like she had. There were some teenagers there.
Oh, cool.
Maybe running, whatever. There was a mom and her kid. Her kid was probably 12. And they were hobbling right along. Not very quick. And it was cool because you see all these different levels. Yeah. And the people that knew what they were doing were coaching the people that didn't.
Yeah.
You know, you hear this in running groups. Hey, you know, if you step this way, you're going to take some pressure off your heels. Hey, if you do this. You know, I was helping Jen. We got to a point where we're doing like a short sprint. And I was telling her, ear pocket, like your hands. Yeah. Ear pocket. Something they told us in track. Is it accurate? I don't know. A runner out there might be saying like it's the dumbest thing in the world. Dude, don't tell people that. As far as I know, it works. I do it. It helps. She never heard that before. And I was able to say, hey, I've done this. It's going to help you. It's going to make your legs go faster, pump your arms. It seems crazy, but it works.
Right.
You're never going to discover that on your own.
Yeah. You're going to run like Phoebe.
Yeah. And think of, I was in a writing group and weekly, you had to turn in something for everyone else to read. And if you didn't, it was embarrassing. Like, you got away with it once in a while. There was forgiveness. Nobody yelled at you, but it was embarrassing. Like, you didn't want to be the person not to bring something. So it made you sit down and write. Mm-hmm. Those things exist. So again, stretching yourself and giving back. So once you achieve your goal, that's something that when I was in shape, and I'm currently not, but when I was in shape, I started inquiring how to be a pace setter at those races.
Oh, cool.
Because they have people that'll have a sign that says, we're going to finish this half marathon in 3 hours, in 2 hours, whatever it might be. And they usually have every 10 or 15 minutes. Because a lot of runners don't know how fast to run, especially for that distance. If you overdo it in the beginning, you're going to hurt yourself later on. And my first run, I stayed behind one of the groups. I said, I don't know how fast to run this thing. I'm just going to stick right behind this person and do what they do. And I started looking at how can I become that person. I never did it, and I lost the shape, so I'm a ways away, but it's something I'm interested in doing in the future because it's really cool. You can achieve your goal. You can continue to set goals, and then your goals can pivot in a way that helps other people achieve theirs.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most touching things I've seen it happen because there's lots of times for halves that are important. I think for a lot of people, breaking 2 hours is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And my best time was just under 2 hours, and I was over the moon. And I've never done it since. It's one time. But they have that pace setter, and I've seen this happen. But that person's got the sign that says 2 hours, and they're whatever they're keeping track on their Garmin or their watch or whatever. And they got to the last couple hundred meters, and this person, there's all these people around them, and she said, "You guys want to beat 2? Go, just go."
Cool.
And these people who are, they're hoping to hit 2 hours. that would make them so happy. And they would cross at 2 hours with her pretty close. And she was basically saying, it's not good enough. You can get 1 hour and 59 minutes, go sprint, everything you got. And was yelling at them. Anyone who had anything left was just pushing. And then these people are so happy. They get to the end and they didn't only hit their goal. They exceeded their goal. They did something they didn't think was possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just so not only achieving your goal is being this really cool achievement for you, but then when you can turn around and do that for someone else.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Right.
Now we're talking. So that's a good place to talk. I think my kid's crying.
Yeah.
So now my new goal is to stop him from crying.
Yeah. And I'm going to let you achieve that. I'm by letting you go. Thank you so much for all of your time. I know it's incredibly hard to get you locked down for this much time because you're always on the go and there's so much you got to do. So I always appreciate talking to you and your encouragement. So just continue to be you and do what you got to do. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. All right, so that is Will Haynes, or as I've known him for many years, Billy Haynes. And you saw at the top of this thing that I called him my best man. I often refer to him as my best man and not my best friend because I'm not a teenager anymore. And to call him my best friend just doesn't have the impact that he's had on my life. It just doesn't pull enough weight. So when I call him my best man, it really shows him the honor and the gravitas of the influence that he's had on me. There at the end of the podcast, he was talking about the idea of being a pace setter for a marathon. And that is the perfect analogy for what he has been in my life. In every single leg of my race, he's been the one setting the pace of what I'm capable of and pushing me a little bit further, just saying, hey, dude, you got this. You're capable of this. I know it's the easy thing is to give up and to just go to the sidelines and go back to what's comfortable. But I'm telling you that you're capable of more. He's always pushed me further. He's the one that brought adventure into my life and made me seek out things that were uncomfortable but broaden my horizons. I have 1 week now until I get my master's degree, and the greatest education that I've ever received in my entire life has been traveling, and most of that has been with Will. I trust no one more with my life, literally, in his hands, traveling across Europe and all over the place, just seeing what this world has to offer, seeing different cultures, and experiencing the way that other people love life and how we all kind of work together to make this thing work. I truly am grateful that we have been able to connect and become friends and stay connected all of these decades and stay in touch, and that will never change. I hope our kids can have a connection, but more importantly, I hope that you have someone in your life setting the pace for you and telling you that you got this. Why just try to make a 2-hour marathon when you can get 1:59? Don't just go for your goal, break it. Do better than you thought you were capable of, because there's more in you than you thought you're capable of. We don't just want to reach our goals, we want to exceed them, and we want to find out what else is there out in this world that we don't know. What else can we enjoy? What can we appreciate? That's why we're here. That's what this life is all about, is to love and be loved, and that means people, places, things, everything that is here is to be appreciated. So I hope you found some value in this long talk, and hopefully it helped you kind of pinpoint something that you've been kind of marinating on in your life, that is something that you maybe have been waiting to pull the trigger on, and now you're thinking, yeah, I got this. Because you do. You got this.